both videos?
So when they go with the boys,
There's the original one too.
you take dating boy.
I think he's got the new one. He said there's about 25 of those. And I've got a few rollers here. All read everything I had.
All the every neighbor in the neighborhood looked like they all came and a bunch of high school buddies, a bunch of work boys came. He was surprised. It was a good night. I think he is pretty much going to pull the trigger in January. Stay alive. Yeah. No, they're working. They're working. He's going from 6 o'clock in the morning.
No, I think maybe it's this.
Nobody's saying anything about the pay rate. No, I think they're worried about. I asked him, I said, did you talk to the president of the company working for him? No, I haven't. He said, I don't think he can do that. I know exactly what kind of deal I can get for you. And I'm like, he does know. Actually, this guy's wife, Evie's kindergarten teacher. Yeah. But he told Ryan, he told Ryan, he said, I told her that I was said, I'll pay for 2 weeks for all the kids going to. I know, put her right here. I told him, I said, that's free. Kids leave school, then you get paid. All right, buddy. Thanks for updating.
shut batteries in there.
There's a couple seats here. Oh, yeah. You know, that's illegal on Southwest.
We're taking them.
I've seen those TikToks of saving those seats on Southwest. Oh, that's not a good idea. Yeah, I do. You just scratch your head.
I know he's here though. I saw him last night. Coming in the property. Is that the last couple?
Yeah, there's only 4 people outside, I think.
Denise went down to the last two. That's the last two. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're clear. How do I have to check? I don't know. I think I checked at the beginning of the week. I think he was up to 60. That's a pretty good. I had 96 chairs, 98 chairs. So yes.
Oh, you brought me a cookie from home? No, you didn't.
I've already got some more.
Good morning. How's everybody? Fine, thanks. My name is Austin Jordan. I'm Vice President of the Barrier Island Station Interval Ownership Association, and I hereby call the 2024 annual meeting of said association to order. There being greater than 10% of the association present, either in person or by proxy, the existence of a quorum is noted. Notice of meeting was transmitted to the ownership in September 2024 and October 2024 via U.S. mail and via electronic means. I would also like to call your attention this morning to the minutes of the 2023 annual meeting. That should have been given to you in your packet when you checked in. Take a moment, if you would, please, to review those minutes. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes of the 2024 annual meeting? There being none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the 2023 annual meeting. Your name, sir?
The other John Ferguson.
The other John Ferguson. Justin, you got that? Okay. Can I have a second to that motion? Your name, ma'am? Oh, that's right. I just met you. Motion's been made and second to adopt the meeting minutes of the 2023 annual meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The meeting minutes are adopted for the 2023 annual meeting. I left my brain in my other suit. This is Denise Truesdale, the president of the association. Pardon me, Denise.
I think we're set, right? Good morning, everyone. How's everybody today? It's great to see you all again this year. I want to thank you for coming out to the annual meeting. And I'd actually like a show of hands. How many of you were able to take advantage of the accommodations at the resort with the special rate that we had? Just curious. Okay, all right. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started with this. I'll do a little housekeeping here first. All of the materials that you should have received them at the front. For those people that are on the online, the materials are posted on the website. Following the meeting today, as we normally do, we'll go through the presentations first, and then all of the questions that you have, we'll try to address those at the end of the session. We've got a pretty full agenda, so we always go through the materials, and then we'll hold your questions, please, until the end of the session with that. The questions that you sent to us, the FAQ for that we've created, so there's an FAQ that's included in your packet. There's actually two FAQs. There's an FAQ for the questions that were sent prior to the meeting that you should have, and there's an FAQ that has to do specifically with the repurposing materials. So that's going to be there as well. And as I mentioned, all of the documentation that we have that we're going through today is posted on the owner's portal. And you can also then download that, the presentations or anything else that you want. The meeting is going to be recorded, and for those of you that are online, you should have the materials there available. And the connection is as good as what is available at the Wi-Fi for those of you that are online. We're going to adjourn the meeting at noon time, and then at 1 o'clock, we'll reconvene again, and we'll be celebrating our successes, the successes that we've had over the year. We'll have a grand opening of the Recreation Center. How many of you have been able to go over yet to the Recreation Center? Oh, good, pretty good piece of the crowd. And then we're also going to have a dedication to Mr. Todd, who unfortunately left us this year, over 27 years of service at the resort. So we're going to give a special dedication to him. We'll do a celebration, and then if you still have questions about the right sizing of the resort, we'll still have another breakout session at 2:30, okay? Other logistics, restrooms, will go out of this door to the right, and they're right around the corner. Okay. We have a full agenda. We're going to start with me giving you a brief update on the resort status. Then the treasurer is going to do a treasurer's report. We'll have an introduction of the VRI team, and the resort manager, Walter Hancock, will give us an update on the status of the resort. Austin Jordan will cover the bylaws. Then we'll go through an update of where we sit with the interior project as well as the recreation center. Then we'll have an election, and we'll do a discussion on the repurposing of the resort. Okay. So I think many of you know who we are as a board today, but we are an extraordinary resort with extraordinary people, and I'd like to take a few moments to introduce you to the team again. These are the folks that work tirelessly every single day to make Barrier Island a special place. So I'm going to start out. You saw Austin. Austin is the vice president. And Austin is all things contracts for us. He's our contracting guru, and he's currently working on the bylaws, and they've done all of the work to get the bylaws, and we're working to finally get those closed and amended. Carmen Giovanni. Carmen is our treasurer. Carmen is just a wealth of information, and he is just a master class when it comes to financing and managing the budget. And then we have our secretary, who's Rich Finelli, who's right here. And Rich has just been invaluable with all of the work that he's done with his architectural experience in helping us to get through the interior renovation project in the recreation center. And then we have Chuck Lataki, who is our director. He's our all-hands-on person, and he's also been working with Austin on doing the bylaws. And of course, I have to always recognize a person who's got a lot of patience that helps us through the Facebook coordination and the Facebook administrator, and that would be Debbie Olive. So let's give Debbie a hand. And to you folks, our loyal owners, who without you, truly, we would not have this resort. And I want to take the time again to thank you all for all of your patience and your loyalty and your dedication to the resort. So let's give yourselves a round of applause. And then the VRI team and staff, we've got Walter Hancock, the general manager. And then we have Justin, our regional director. Okay, so that's Justin Smith, that. So what are the goals? The goals that we have, and I tell you this all of the time, is that the success of this place really depends on all of us. Without us and without your participation, there wouldn't be a resort. And I always like to take the time to go through this and just remind everybody, we've basically been on our own without developer support now for the last 7 years. And so as the goals that we've always set for ourselves, it's been careful financial decisions with minimal impact to you, always trying not to have to do special assessments and trying to keep the maintenance fees low. So that's one of the goals here. keeping you informed and engaged, especially on major decisions, doing what we can to reduce the delinquency rate and expand the ownership, extending the timeshare regime, which we've done with the timeshare termination and getting that passed, and overall building a world-class resort. So you guys need to be the judge on it, but I think as you look and step back at what we've done, we have a lot to celebrate today. So I put together a list of all of the things that we've done over the past 7 years under my leadership and under the fact that we've no longer had any developer involvement in the resort. And the first thing I want to say is, what is the most thing we should be proud about? It's the fact that we're still here. As an industry, over the years, as you well know, many resorts are no longer with us. We're a small resort, but we've got a lot of dedicated owners, and through our own work and loyalty and participation, we've been able to keep Barrier Island as our special place here on the Outer Banks. So that's the first thing that I want to point to you about, and I want you to take a step back for a minute and think about, we've been doing all of this against the odds. We started out with this with little bits in the reserves and a low maintenance fee, and we've really managed to keep the assessments down to just a couple more. And we've been working with this, always expecting to do a lot with less. So I'm really happy, and I feel proud of being a part of this resort to know that we've been able to accomplish a lot of great things here. We've overcome a lot of obstacles. We've overcome COVID, the supply chain. We got hit with the rec center having to be condemned. So if you think about the history of all of the things that we've had to deal with over these past few years, we've managed to come through. And as a result of this, I just wanted you to take a minute and see the things that we've done so you can kind of just absorb it all in. Doing a brand new rec center that we have now. We finally started doing the unit upgrades. We're in the process of getting those done. It's not everything that we want to do with the units, but it's what we could do with the amount of money that we had. And just as a reminder, the assessment that you had was not just for the interior renovations. It was for the interior renovations, it was for the beach ramp, it was for the rec center. So when you think about the $1,200, we were stretching those dollars a very long way. Also think about the fact of a beach ramp. How many resorts do you know that have a beach ramp? We have a beach ramp here on this property. And people that have never been able to get on to the beach for many years are now happy owners able to go ahead and do just that. We completed the timeshare termination, as I mentioned. That was something that we thought could never get done, but we did it. We got new fire sprinklers put in. We thought about how are we going to be able to generate revenue for the resort, and so we did everything methodically. We had to get our license, our real estate license, and then we were able to start selling units, getting revenue, and being able to foreclose and resale. So we're always thinking about how are we going to generate revenue and what are the things that we can do to keep moving the resort forward. We have a new pickleball court. Yes, she could tell you all about that. When we got here, when we realized we didn't have an HVAC program, the air conditioners were blowing up all over the place and we didn't understand why. For years, there wasn't an HVAC management program. We have an HVAC management program and we've been replacing units, 17 of them every year. So we're constantly looking at being proactive. EV charging stations, again, something else we're doing progressive. They'll soon be out there. How many resorts do you know, big and small, that have EV charging stations? So we are really progressive at this resort with a lot of great amenities. And Walter Hancock figured out a way for us to have, for those of you that have the penthouse units, as they're called, and between the 500 and the 800 buildings that have the third floor, we now have zoned air conditioning in those units. So there we go with that. And one of the other great surprises that I have for you folks today, and the team has been working really hard, and you've probably seen this in the newsletters that we send out, is about if there's something that's not right with you, if you get your RCI comment cards to tell us about it. And I know everyone is thinking back to the days we used to be a resort of international distinction. We had actually dropped down to just standard, no classification, But this year, we received the RCI Hospitality Award. So that's that. Okay. So these are the things that we've accomplished over the past 7 years. I think it's a long list. I guess you guys should think so as well. If you disagree, let me know. But we've done a lot with a little, and I appreciate all of the support. We couldn't have done this all without you, and we couldn't have done it without the great management team that we have between Walter and his staff. So I think we have a lot to celebrate and a lot to be proud of. And as we look to get into what's going to happen next year, we're now looking into doing electronic key locks for next year, as well as new kitchenware into the resort. Okay? For some reason, it's not wanting to go.
What did you do?
I just pressed it. Okay, so I want to go back and see. Okay, so this is just a reminder of all of the amenities that we have, as our goal is to have a world-class resort. And most of you have experienced this already, but just a reminder to what we covered again with the fabulous television system that we have. And I also forgot to mention, and how could I not, the great Wi-Fi that we have. So the Wi-Fi that we built, the fiber network that we started, and from that fiber network, we were able to then do, not over the internet, but we're able to save money by having a telephone system. So everything here is now IP enabled. We have the Spectrum Enterprise TV service today. And so most of you probably know this, but as a reminder, with the television service that we have, you can absolutely go from seeing the program in your room to bringing it down to your telephone or your laptop or anything else. So my goal here with the IP enabling this resort is to be able to have great connectivity using anything that you have, anywhere, anytime, and I think we've accomplished that. Open lines of communications. This is a reminder again to what we have between the owner's portal, the Barrier Island portal, the VRI portal. You've got the official Facebook page, as well as the communication that you have on the Facebook page for the owner community. You have our contact information so that you can contact us, and feel free to reach out to us anytime. And Walter now once again handles the meet the managers meeting at the resort when you're here. So anytime you need to reach us, just give us a call. And with that, I'm going to move on to the treasurer, Carmen D. Giovanni.
I just have one request. Let me get through my presentation before you throw water bottles. Then that's fine after that. So we're going to start off here with what occurred in 2024, 2025 objectives here. And what you can see is that we almost completed foreclosures on 60 prime week units. They're in the final stages. Unfortunately, they've been in the final stages for about 4 months, but we should have these deeds hopefully soon. These are prime week units too, so these are all what RCI would call season 1, weeks 24 to 32, and these are going to be part of the pool that is going to be used to support the repurposing effort as people, assuming it's approved, are being able to move out of a prime week unit in 100 into a prime week unit in another building. We recorded $131,646 of rental revenue so far through September. There'll be more coming in. These data are on a 1-month lag basis, so we don't really have August and September and October information yet. But that's the equivalent of 132 delinquencies that we've offset. We brought back 60 potential delinquencies, offset 60 potential delinquencies with deedbacks. That brought in $180,000. These are some of the supplemental income items that bring us funds over and above maintenance fee collections. We studied this very hard, and the repurposing option is, in our opinion, board's opinion, you'll vote on it, is the best way to go forward and rationalize our supply-demand imbalance and raise capital without having to come with our hands out and ask for more money. And I sit down every month with Justin and with Walter, and we do a financial scrub of the report. So we stay on top of anything that might be deviating from budget, good or bad. Good, we want to capitalize. If it's bad, we want to fix. What are we looking for in my area in 2025? You can see this is a continuing item. We maintain tight financial controls. I'm going to show you a slide in a moment, I think, that demonstrates that. I'll be overseeing all the financial matters relative to the 100 building, should it pass. We're going to continue our idle unit rental program. We try to rent everything we can. If it's a unit that's in default, or if it's a unit that we own, it's in the rental pool. We collect those funds. That's the $131,000 that you see up here that goes right into our treasury. And then we're going to be developing the financial plans on how to oversee and pay for the Quest Plumbing and the rest of the interior upgrade project as we move forward. So this is a chart for those of you who've seen this presentation before. You see this every year. I think it's a very valuable chart. This shows our maintenance fees compared to a national average of maintenance fees over the last 30 years. And we have never, except in the very early years, been close to the national average. The estimated data for 2025, the average maintenance fee for resorts other than ours, $1,410 per year. For us, $1,074. Just that difference right there, that $200, $300 some odd dollar difference is worth more than $1 million. So if we had bumped this up to the national average and everybody paid, that assumed that we'll collect 54%, we would actually have another $1,036,000 in the budget next year. So, and for this 30-year period, if you look at that, that's $24 million that we didn't have. And had we just maintained the national average, didn't have to beat it, there would never have been a special assessment. You never would have had the problems you have in this resort. You wouldn't have had condemned buildings. You wouldn't have had stained carpeting and bad furniture. We would have kept up with everything. So we're going to look at some historical data trends here. This is a chart that I think is also important to kind of grasp. Those lines, except for the blip around COVID there, where you see the light green line, which was operating costs, take a dive. Those lines, if you were to graph these least squares analysis, those lines are basically flat over a 16-year period. In nominal dollars, these are not inflated. I mean, these are actual dollars. There's no adjustment for inflation in here. So what this is saying is we are spending right now and collecting right now about the same amount of money that we've been collecting from 16 years ago. So the big question that comes up in everybody's mind, come up in my mind, which is what comes into the next slide here, is why are my maintenance fees going up if we're not getting any more money? This is why your maintenance fees are going up, because the performance of owners paying continues to slip. So to get that next dollar for someone who doesn't pay their bill, we all have to chip in a little bit more. One encouraging thing here I'd like to point out, and that's on the light green line, which is the owner participation. If you look at the last couple of years, that line is flattening. Have we hit bottom is the phrase that I use internally. I thought we hit bottom when we had 70% participation. We didn't. We went right through that. We are now budgeting 54% paying owners next year. That's what our budget is built upon. Last year and this year, last year actual, this year projected, we beat our collections budget. Last year we beat it by I think about 1%, and this year we're projected to beat it by, we're beating it right now by 0.3%. I think we'll probably beat it by 0.5% come the end of December. So those are encouraging signs. We certainly want that number to be higher, but the fact that it's flattening, I think, is critical. So how are we looking versus the budget? How are we projected to do this year? If you look down at the variances, we're going to beat our maintenance fee revenue because our performance is going to be above budget. We are going to beat our other revenue budget by $60,580, 10.3%, through the ancillary income that I mentioned, the deed back fees, the rental revenues have pretty good rental every year. Our net operating expenses are almost zero to budget. We project them to be about $8,000 favorable to budget. So overall, we're looking at a potential surplus at the end of December of $190,000. Now, we have use for that. Walter may get into some of this. We have some issues in buildings that we have to fund, but this is how we can help pay for some unforeseen or extra expenses without, again, having to go back and ask for more money. So our operating expense budget, I do want to point out, there's a handout that you don't have that didn't get in here. It'll be posted on the website. It's an explanation of the expenses in the 2025 budget. I do this every year, but it missed it. It will be on the website. That will help explain something on the next slide. But what you'll see here are the pluses and minuses by major category of expense in 2024 versus the budget. We have a big miss on maintenance. It's 33.6% negative variance. The reason for that, if you drop down to salaries and wages are favorable by 7.3%, and that's a much larger line item than maintenance. Problem is, we've had problems keeping maintenance personnel 100% staffed, so we get a favorable variance in salary expenses, but we have to contract out maintenance, and that's more expensive than having people on the payroll. So there's something of an offset there. The salaries and wages favorable variance is $71,000. The maintenance unfavorable variance is $52,000. So there's an offset. If you look at the bottom line, we're projected to come within 0.2% of our operating budget, which is pretty good. So looking forward to 2025, same chart you just saw a couple moments ago, but this is now with 2025 data compared to the 2024 forecast. So we're projecting maintenance fee revenue to go down a little bit because we're dropping the collection rate. If we do in 2025 what we've done in 2024 and 2023, next year at this time, that'll be a positive variance. But this is solely related to the fact that even though fees are going up, participation is going down. Other revenue, pretty much a wash. It's difficult to predict this with any accuracy, but I think we're going to come pretty close. Operating expenses compared to the forecast, off a little bit, 2.1%, and we don't project a surplus or a deficit for the year. So if you look at the lower left-hand number there, it's a zero. We always budget to zero at this for operating revenues and expenses. The operating expense budget versus the 2024 forecasts, where are the movements in here? If you look at the variance column, you'll see a favorable variance in maintenance, for instance, that jumps out 25.1%. Why? Same reason I just mentioned. We're assuming that we will have 100% of our employees filled all year, and we will not rely on expensive contract labor. If we look down at salaries and wages, we have a 10% drop. We're not cutting anyone's pay. We're not cutting anyone's position. That's the fact that we are, or I say drop in unfavorable. That's the fact we assume that we will fill every position all year. So at the bottom line, we're looking at basically a growth in operating expenses of 2.1% in 2025 versus where we think we're going to finish in 2024. That's lower than the rate of inflation. So again, this gets back to the whole concept of really monitoring the expense, monitoring the flows of cash, and trying to keep things under control. This is a graphic that highlights some of what I just talked about. So for those of us who are pictorially oriented, you can get a sense here. You can see where the big movers are. It's housekeeping, salaries and wages, admin in general, and then insurance. Insurance takes a big chunk. 13% of what you pay in maintenance fees goes to just to insure the property. Property and casualty insurance, wind, flood, all of that, and directors and officers when you try to sue us, so we're protected too. So, but that just so shows where the big movers are. And of course, those are the ones where we put our focus, our operating focus, is keeping those under control, and hopefully the others can't hurt us too badly. In terms of looking at it, where does my $1,074 go? So when you show up for your week, $247 of your maintenance fee is going to housekeeping to clean your unit. Now, that may sound expensive, but for those of us who own lockout units, that counts as 2 units. That's 2 cleaning fees that we pay. If you're in a non-lockout unit, even if it's 3 bedrooms, sleeps 10, you pay 1 maintenance fee. So that's simply the way the industry structures these things. So that's why, even though we don't pay for any one unit that much, when you average it all out, it comes to $247 because we have 61 lockout units. So that's a double fee for each of the lockouts. Salaries and wages, $289 goes to paying Walter and his staff here. And it just, again, gives you a sense of where is my money, where is it going? This is how we're spending your income to us. Next page. Yes, sir.
Previous question, how many people are on the staff?
Walter, about 15, 16? Yeah, and that's across all disciplines. That's from Walter on down. And in terms of where does the money go, we pay for all the labor on this resort. From Walter on down, it all comes out of that salaries and wages line. In administrative expenses, there are 2 big items, I should have mentioned this, in administrative expenses. One, the fees that we pay to the common area, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and then the fees, we pay a management fee to VRI/capital. That's what covers your billing, for instance, all of the backroom operations, the rentals, the billing, maintaining all of the records, any tax records that go out. That pays for all of that. But everybody who works at the resort is paid by us. In that, the common area, just to ensure that we're on the same track, everything that's not in our condominium buildings is part of the common area. The roads, the rec center, the outdoor pool, all of that. So we contribute to funding and maintaining the common area, as does the 200 building. It's a 13%, 87% ratio in terms of contributions, because if you look at the number of units, not intervals, but whole condos, the association owns 87% of them, the 200 building owns 13%. So they kick in, we kick in, and that's what takes care of all of the outside, what we see as the outside, maintenance and upkeep there. So in the special assessment status, these are the latest numbers. I did something such as this last year. These have been updated with the most current information. And these are the major categories. The sprinklers cost a little more. We budgeted $1.2 million, came in at $1,283,000. The dune ramp broke even, came in just where we budgeted. The recreation center killed us from a financial perspective. The costs were skyrocketed, and we had to bring the scope down. This was not the building we originally planned to build. But we got killed from inflation, but not just inflation. The town, we're in their building, so please don't strike me down, didn't help here. There were all kind of zoning issues with which we had to deal. The health department, the state, everybody took a piece of this here. And one of the examples, I think I talked about this last year, how busy is our parking lot at the recreation center? How many people park there? About 0, yeah, hardly any. We had to put that in, that was a requirement. Okay? So that was site work, because based on the square footage of the building, the occupancy of the building, the town says you have to have X number of spaces for every Y number of people. So we have a very nice parking lot. We don't need it, but we couldn't commission that structure without that. The drainage that you see there, the retention ponds, all of that was required by us. It was not necessarily part of the original design, but those were the kind of things that just started to suck cash out of this. The interior refurbishment, you see a very large positive variance. All that means is we had budgeted $4.2 million. We've only spent $1.5. We theoretically have a $2.7 million favorable variance, but we don't have $2.7 million in cash because of these other negative variances. That's just simply how much we've spent so far versus what we anticipated spending. We have a reserve, we still have a reserve and contingency that's built into this. And we gave out, if you remember this, that we had a discount program to those who paid early, either paid all at once or paid over 2 years. And because of the buildings that were shut down, the 300 and 400 buildings in prime season, we refunded maintenance fees to people who were displaced and we couldn't find a home. That cost us $471,000 that we didn't get, either we didn't get it or we gave it back. So at the bottom line, where we are right now is we have either in cash, or if you look at that receivable from the 200 HOA and our whole owners. For those who don't know, we have 2 units, 119 and 401, that are wholly owned. They're part of our association, but they're not intervals. They're owned by whole owners. They pay a much higher, they don't pay $1,074, but they pay a much higher monthly fee into the association. And so we have a receivable coming in of almost $500,000 that will be added to what cash we have, which will give us, we think, about $1.3 million residual to start. Now, problem is, and for those of you who were here last year, you saw this slide. Again, the numbers have been tweaked just a hair here. It's going to cost us, our estimate, $865,000 to replace the plumbing. The plumbing is a non-negotiable issue. You know, we're going to lose our insurance if we don't replace this plumbing. It's as simple as that. So 5 buildings are going to be replumbed with the Quest pipe idled, removed, or abandoned in place, and new plumbing run in. We believe it'll cost about $2 million to complete the interior refurbishment. So total cost, we need about $2.9 million. That's what these say. You just saw we have about $1.3 million in cash, or that we expect. So we have a shortfall of $1.6 million. So where do we get it? Well, we talked about how to get it. We worked with Capital Vacations on a vacation club program that we thought would bring in a significant amount of cash. There would have been some negatives to that in terms of giving up ownership. That didn't work. They just thought the deal was not in their interest, so they backed out. That left 2 options: the repurposing option, and the last option is the special assessment. These are our potential sources of cash. Key thing about the repurposing, the board is recommending that, and this is really something that's very important. We're recommending that as the least painful way to help with our financial problems and rationalize the size of the resort. But we can't make it happen. It's the 100 building owners. This is the timeshare termination all over again. We need 75% approval to do this. If we don't get that, repurposing is off the table. And item number 3 kicks in. Now, how much would we have to have a special assessment to raise the capital that we need? If we don't redo 100, we actually need more money, because there's no budget in here right now to upgrade 100 as we're upgrading the other buildings. So I did some quick math last night. It would require a special assessment, in my opinion, it could be a little rough, of about $1,000 an owner, $1,000 of interval special assessment to be able to do everything that we need to do and improve the 100 building. So that's why we think the repurposing is the way to go. You know, this way, no special assessment, and the funds come in via the financial transactions of repurposing. Project costs to complete refurbishment. Where is the money going? We have 3 types of units here. We have A units, which is everybody, including the A side of the lockout units. We have the B side lockouts, and then the A lofts. Those are the 3-bedroom units that every lockout has on the 3rd floor. So it's almost as if it's almost as if it's a 3rd unit. It is a 3rd unit category because more work has to be done in there. And so we broke this down in terms of the remaining lockout buildings, and also the residual work that has to be done in 300 and 500, which is the plumbing. So if you look at the plumbing line, you'll see the $865,000 that we talked about earlier. And then this is what we would spend with construction. FF&E is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, flooring, sofas, lamps, paint, things such as that. So the construction, the actual labor, if you want to think of it that way, $1.7 million. FF&E, $377,000, $865,000 for the plumbing. requires 2.9 million. We deduct the 1.3 million that we have or will get, and it says our shortfall is the 1.6 million, 1,637,400. At the end. And that concludes my team. Throw the water bottles, but we're finished then. Thank you. Thank you.
I saw some hands up, so we're going to do questions at the end. So at the end of this, there'll be a Q&A session. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the VRI team. So on here, this is going to show organizational chart with the Barrier Island Owners Association, Board of Directors, management company, which is Vacation Resorts International, Capital Vacations, who I work for. On here, you're going to see Scott Dravis, not present today, consultant with Capital Vacations, and then myself, and then the resort staff here, Walter Hancock and his team, which I'm sure all you guys know. And then on the capital side, obviously, wide array of departments we work with that a lot of you guys have probably called into. Owner services, we do a wide array of things. Some of you guys don't deal with them directly. Accounting, we have a billing department. Human resources, obviously, IT. Most of you guys have probably dealt with at some point the owner services team. They're the ones that take payments, help you with anything you need. There's obviously coordinating with Walter, myself, then anything that you guys need, they're there to help. There's Scott, there's me, an updated picture. Then here is the staff on property here. You guys know all of them, and I can tell you, this team here, the room you guys are looking at today, this room was not set up like this, and we got in here at 7:45 this morning. So this team on here, I mean, they're a hard-working team. They flipped this room for you guys this morning for this annual meeting. This is all of them here. You have Walter Hancock, you have Allie, Bill in maintenance, Amanda, Katie, Mark, and Taylor. Great team here at the resort. I'm sure you guys have dealt with either all or some of them, but I'm pretty sure everybody here has dealt with Walter at some point. Great guy, worked with him for multiple years now and does a phenomenal job. I'm going to turn it over to Walter for his GM's report.
Good morning. So we'll run through a few slides here. It'll be what we've done and accomplished this year and what we're looking to do. We had a little bit of different year this year. We didn't do the heavy renovations this year, so it allowed us to. I'm sorry? It's online. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Big one. We've got multiple exclamation points. Completed the rec center, and the reason we did is that was a massive, massive project, and it's a massive project for this group. It's a massive project for my team. We set up the rec center. We put all the furniture together. We cleaned it. We hung the pictures. We did everything that made it operational. So we spent every bit all hands on deck in the rec center. What a lot of people don't know is we've met as a group every week, twice a week for a year and a half. We get paid to do that. I get paid to do that. Justin gets paid to do that. These folks don't get paid to do that. And that's every Tuesday and Wednesday we've met as a group for a year and a half. A month and a half ago, we stopped and switched it to every 2 weeks. So we're still meeting. We're still talking about rec center. What can we improve? What can we fix? AP software, that's a big change for us internally. We used accounting software for us, used to be the old school, stamp it, send it off. Everything's electronic, everything's fast now. We were cutting checks once a month. We're cutting checks once a week. So it was a big change for our staff, but now that we're there, things are, like anything, it takes a while to get the kinks out, but it's moving. And this will move into what we're planning on doing. To what Carmen said, we always try to beat the budget. We try to beat the budget early fourth quarter to have some reserve left to do some items that we can grab out of our operating budget to improve, so that we're not going after any reserve funds. So what we did last year is we beat the budget, and we took the money that was left over before the end of the year, and we went back into the 3 remodeled buildings. We pulled all the mismatched dishes out that have been there for 30, 40 years, old pots and pans, silverware that didn't match, and went through and just everybody got the same thing. We did the same in the 500 building. We had some maintenance operation funds left that didn't come out of reserves. We went in and bought Comfort Height toilets that didn't make the renovation. We took money out of operations and did the same by the end of the year. And you'll see the next slide, we're projected to do the same thing again this year. Exterior doors, you guys got exterior doors when you got your deck 6-7 years ago. It was discovered that they were primed and never painted. That's why they had the midges and all the stuff and they wouldn't clean off. So we started the project to go through prime and paint all the exterior doors on the property. We're over halfway done. We stopped when season started, obviously because we can't paint doors for people in the units, and so we'll start back up now that season's ended. The structural repairs, when we went through renovations, 516 had structural repairs in the flooring system under the kitchen. It required new joists, a wall to be rebuilt, and then required it right where the kitchen was. So all the cabinets had to come out. As you know, these cabinets are 40 years old. They like where they were. They're not going back. So we pulled them out. Ended up getting new kitchens in 516A and B. Same thing with 314B or 318B. With all the units that we have to renovate, this is the second time we've renovated this one. It flooded, the A side and the B side, and 309 flooded this past year. We had to go back in a beautiful remodeled units and remodel them again. Reinstalled our playground. That's all done in-house. So that was taken out by in-house staff, put back in by in-house staff. And that's all part of just trying to find places to save dollars. Clark Nexon, who built our rec center, would do all this for us, but they would do it as a fee. So we're always looking for places that we can do something and cut costs. This one's kind of neat. We haven't done this in a couple years because we've not been able to. Through renovations, all our staff takes all the furnishings out, all the dishes out, basically turns these units into blank shells, lets construction do their thing, and then we put everything back. Last year, the quote for the 400 building was $47,000 for Clark Nexon to do that. So we said, we'll do it. We've wintertime, we can go in, we'll take, that's why you see those Connex boxes. We bought those to store our stuff. But this past year, we didn't have to do any of that. So we had the whole winter to get into so we walked every single 176 units. We walked 2 a day. We walked them as a team, went in, made punch list of this is a rusty light fixture, this air vent needs to be replaced. We've never done that. We've never had the time in an off season to be able to do this. This is the first year we did it. Unfortunately, it took us 9 weeks, almost 10 weeks to accomplish that, which didn't leave in maintenance enough time to do the punch list for all the units. They completed a lot, but not all of them. They'll start back up once the resort slows down. And then that's probably our biggest. We sat down as a management group. You saw the team that we had. That's our team of managers. We sit down and we meet usually once a quarter. At the beginning of the year, this was our goal we look back to see the last time that there was recognition from RCI at the resort, and it was 10 plus years. And so our goal was, we've got renovated units. I think we've got a great staff. They grade us on hospitality of our staff, cleanliness of the rooms, maintenance of the rooms, and the resort itself. And so that was our entire team's goal, to sit down, and this is something we guided all year long. This is where we are. There was times where we were 1/10 a point away, and then we'd ramp it up for that month, and we'd gain an extra points. But so that's a big deal for you guys. It's a big deal for us. It's something that hopefully we'll continue to add. What we will add is, out of the 5 categories that we're graded on, it goes hospitality, silver, gold. Out of the 5 categories we were rated on, 4 of them received silver. So we were one away from getting us to the next level. So we'll move on. Thank you. This is what we hope to do this upcoming year. Early first quarter, we're grabbing the 800 building. 800 building folks haven't had anything going on in there. They're going to get sofas, love seats, lamps, big TVs, both sides. So that'll happen first quarter. We'll take everything out. We'll bring the new sofas in, get rid of the little 32-inch TV that you can't see, and put a 55-inch TV in there. Same thing here that we did last year. We'll have some dollars left over from our operation. It's to go into 300 building and take out, some of you've got little kindergarten-looking toilets, and put in normal commodes in there. And then continue our kitchenware replacement in the 6, 7, and 800 building. We've actually already ordered Most of that's sitting in stock in our garage. When we do our deep cleans, that's when they'll go in and pull everything out, and they'll put everything. So our goal is, when we open back up or we get busy again, that we've got new dishware, new plates, new everything throughout all the units, and they all match. So we're not, there's beige, there's everything there currently. Foundation repairs to building 400. When we did the renovation, there was termite damage found under the 400 building. And if some of you own in certain units, you'll see some of the floors kind of dip and there's a couple things there. Termite damage is one cause. Other is age of the building and under engineering. The spans of the joists are wider than they should be. So this will happen next month. They'll come in, we'll clean out the 400 building, we'll move owners out. It'll take 2 weeks. They're going to go in, add, and I don't know the rough numbers because I don't have them in front of me, but it's 8 to 10 joists they're going to end up adding, replacing 4 joists that are rotten, and then putting in a few more support pillars. And they'll actually lift that building up, jack that building up. HVAC, same thing. We're still, last year, we usually try to go in at the beginning of the year and grab the ones that are on their last leg. Last year we did that. We got a little overzealous. We ended up replacing, I think, 22 instead of 17. This past year we didn't. We kind of waited for them to phase out. And I think we're currently about 14 of those in this year with 3 more left. We know when it gets cold and heating cycle starts, then you'll end up, a few more will show up. This one we actually just worked on yesterday. The 700 building, the 701 through 706 pod is flooded many years ago. It was remodeled. It flooded again in this past storm. There ended up a pond behind that building that sat there for probably 2 weeks before it dissipated. The water is equally coming from our property and our neighbor's property. We've talked about this a few years ago, and we kind of put a deal together. If you maintain your water, we'll maintain ours. And then they've kind of lost interest. So we've rekindled that again, along with the town helping us. But we just met with them yesterday and putting a plan together on how to keep that back area dry, how to keep the water from getting there to start with. And they were receptive to moving forward. So that's something we hope to have before we get busy again. Busy for us is typically Easter, April. The other, continue, like I said, painting the doors. We're working on quotes right now to get rid of the keyed locks that we have, the salt, the sand, everybody's here had the key that you had to wiggle, trying to get rid of that. The security that comes with that is we can see anybody every time somebody's been into a room, we can see who it was, whether the car belonged to. Not happened, but someone steals something out of your room, we can audit the lock and know who took what or who was in your unit. So we're hoping to have that done. Now that we're somewhat done with construction, the maintenance area that you see all the fun stuff, the forklift and the building materials, we're trying to put that into the what used to be your overflow parking. To Carmen's point, you've got a huge parking lot with 26 parking spaces. I don't think we need the overflow spot anymore. So we'll end up fencing that in with a 9.5-foot fence. It'll have a gate, and so all the things that maintenance need to operate will live behind there. So when you drive through the property, you won't see maintenance and stuff. And it's not that they're untidy, it's just they don't have space. Same thing, 55-inch TVs, 800 building, we're going and doing A and B sides. The 600 and 700, we're only doing the A sides. The reason we're not doing the B sides is the TV hangs on the wall that we add when we do the renovation. If you own a B side, you know you've got a railing there. The armoire that's in there will not hold anything other than bigger than a 32-inch TV. So unfortunately, there's nowhere to put a bigger TV on the B sides of those two buildings. Another project we're working on right now, meter bases of the 400 building have to be replaced. They're showing their wear. They're, again, 40-plus years old, salt. And it's like anything else, getting parts. It's not replacing one meter base like at your home. It's replacing a gang of 16. And trying to get that built is, I think, the last we heard, we're on a 9-month waiting period on those. And then we've still got to go back in and finish 318A. 318A, the B side was drywall, flooring. The A side, when we took the walls down, there was structural damage in there that we didn't know were there. It was behind the walls, it was in the ceiling. There's actually a few spots in there. So there's structural work that had to be done in there prior to putting the unit itself back together. And this is our staff. I'm sure most of you know them. We've had a couple losses this year, Mr. Todd being a huge one. One of the Miss Helen, our activity director, has been with us for years, moved back to take care of her mom. We've had some great additions. Katie is our new activities director, the mermaid. We've got two great additions in security, Kevin and Jasmine. We've got a great team, great team. And that's it. That's it for me. We'll call up Mr. Austin. Bylaws? Yes, sir.
Hi again. Oh, wait a minute. What happened here? Okay. Subject of bylaws comes up from time to time, like every day. What is a set of bylaws anyway? A set of bylaws basically is an operating manual for our association. We're a 21st century resort with a 20th century operating manual. We are way behind the times. Envision, if you will, attending this meeting, okay, with entertaining board members up here dancing for you, and you're in your kitchen in your pajamas drinking coffee. That's how you can attend this meeting next year if we get these adopted. So, numbers. I don't want to go into a whole lot of numbers, but I do want you to concentrate on three numbers. 1,766, that's the number of votes we need to adopt the new bylaws. 128, I have it on good authority, that's going to drop to 127 very soon. Those are the votes we need to get to 1766. And the number one, and I'll explain the number one here in a minute. So, the best way to get access to all of the documents related to the bylaws and how we got here and where we're going with it and what's it all about is to log into the owner's portal at barryaroundthestationresort.com. That will take you to the bylaws page. And on the bylaws page, you'll see links to the proposed bylaws and related documents, recording of our webinar, which, by the way, I have it on good authority, is going to be nominated for a Webby. You know what a Webby is, right? It's an Emmy for a webinar. That's how good that webinar was, my opinion. A breakdown by unit week of ballots received, and I'll get to that in a second. And a ballot where you can cast your vote. An actual ballot, download it, fill it out with a yes, please, and send it in. Now, once you get to the Barry Island Station page, the single most important hyperlink on that page is in the upper left-hand corner where it says click here, and what I'd actually like you to do is click there. It will take you to a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet will break down by units, initially it will break down by building the number of yes votes received, the number of no votes received, total number of yes votes, total number of no votes. Also, at the bottom of the page, you will see tabs for each building. If you go in, say you go into the 300 building and you say you own 316 and you want to see if your week, which is number 32, has your vote recorded because you sent in your ballot. So what you do is you click on 300, scroll down to 316, look at your week, and if there is a 1, remember that number 1, if there's a 1 in the cell next to it, that means your vote has been received and recorded. If it's blank, for some reason that vote didn't get recorded. What we would like you to do is download a ballot and vote again. I assure you, the number 2 doesn't enter into this. We won't count your vote twice. We will only count it once, okay? And that's what we need. 1766, 128. Let me take a moment, if I may, and explain how we got to the point where we are now. Earlier in the year, Chuck Lataki initiated a phone and email campaign. That generated votes, and it regenerated interest in getting the bylaws adopted. We followed that up with a directed mailing campaign to all of the owners who were current on their fees, but for whom we had not yet received a ballot. Now, that was over 1,000 owners. In the past 3 months, we've received well over 200 ballots. So we're actually making progress. We're very close to getting there. And finally, I would like to make a pitch to see if we can get this done before the end of the year. If you haven't voted, please vote. The reason I want to get it done before the end of the year is that means next year we'll actually be operating in the 21st century. We'll be able to do a lot of the things that we're not able to do now, and you can vote from your kitchen, okay? Any questions? I'm here all day. Thank you very much.
Okay. The next thing on here, we have a recreation tour video for everybody. And if this doesn't work, it's Walter's fault. Yeah. We got. All right. Is that 0 or? Oh, it's 0. T0 D. Yeah. Worst case I can do AM. There we go. I think I'm on now. I just did a hotspot, so I should be good. How does this sound? Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. Which slide? These? Yeah. Yeah, okay. We'll do that because it's not pulling up. And even the Wi-Fi, it's on my hotspot, and I don't think it's going to be stable anyway. Okay.
We're going to come back to order, please. Mr. Murphy has decided to visit with us today, so we won't be doing the video. But you're actually... The video was a video tour of the recreation center, and the good news is you're just right here at the resort, so instead of doing it virtually, you can just go walk in right now at the party and see everything. And we've also got the backup slides. So, and this video will be on the website at the owner's portal. So we put together these slides just in case this might have happened, and it did. So here we are. And if you haven't seen it yet, when you get over, we should be really proud of this brand new recreation center that we have. Pretty much all of the things that we had prior in the old rec center is what we have now. We've got the indoor pool, we've got the hot tub, we have a steam sauna, and then we have the sun deck and the patio. You'll see the nice entryway here from the diagram. And we have a state-of-the-art gym, and we have a clubhouse. And as I mentioned earlier, we now are going to have the EV charging stations. We have walkways from the 300 building to get access to the rec center, as well as all of the parking spots that Carmen was telling you about. We had to put all the spots in, whether we liked it or not, so that's where a lot of the space that we had to go there. And then we have the walkway to the building 600. Some inside shots of the rec center, the exercise room, compare that to what we had before. Quite a big difference, right? State of the art there. The clubhouse and all of the things that we have there. So we hope you're all coming over this afternoon to celebrate with us. More shots of the clubhouse. And the indoor pool looks pretty similar size-wise to what we had before, and the steam sauna. And I'm going to turn it over to Walter now, and he can just kind of run through with you all of this stuff, just as a reminder of what we've done with the interiors renovation project and what the plans are going forward.
So there's a few shots of, this is actually unit 418. Kind of give you an idea how we got here. We did a model unit in the 500 building. I think we talked about this last year. We did soup to nuts. We did everything, every bit of pictures, artwork that we wanted, furniture, kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, everything that we thought that the unit should look like. To Carmen's point, when you look at those assessment numbers, if that 507 had carried across the entire resort, it was $13.5 million it would have taken just to do that times 176 units. So we overused the great term of value engineering, and we went and took that 507 and we worked backwards. We know we can always hang new pictures on the wall, we can always put a new nightstand in. What are the things, the infrastructure items that we need to grab before we move forward? And so that ended up being floors, paint, doors, trim, heavy items that we knew when it came to FF&E, our biggest issue were sofas. Your sofas were original for the most part. So that was number one when it came to FF&E. So that's how we ended up where we were. And that was going through and grabbing those items, and we'll do the same. 600 and 700, you got some of your furniture this past year in an unrenovated unit. The furniture took 9 months to get. From time to order to time it showed up on our property. So we had ordered your furniture well before we knew anything about Quest pipes. We were full bore to do 4, 6, 7 renovations. We got in the 400 building, discovered the problem with Quest, and then had to halt the renovations. But it didn't halt the furniture. They were still on its way. So that's how you ended up with furniture in an unrenovated unit. I met with an owner on Monday at the manager's meeting. She said, "Why would you leave?" We didn't. You just got a new sofa. It's not there yet. And then in-house, we went in and we grabbed light fixtures. That was all our in-house staff. Switching the lights, the can lights to LEDs, that was all our in-house staff. The rug that was proposed to us was a $500, almost $600 rug per unit, beautiful rug. We bought that out of operations for $65 from Wayfair. So it just gives you an idea. We know it's not the same quality. We know it's not. But we're trying to give everything we can with the dollars that we have. So we know there's quirks. We're pretty happy with the finished product. Owners that have been in the other units still have burgundy carpet and all the other stuff. That's quite an upgrade from what was currently there. The cabinets, we had an opportunity in the 300 and 400 building. Cabinets are solid pine boxes. So the opportunity was there, knowing that that's not a long-term solution, but we can at least sand them, paint them white, make them match the aesthetics. Not that we're trying to say, hey, we're going to get another 40 years out of these. It just didn't leave orange cabinets in your units. We didn't have that opportunity, unfortunately, in the other units. They're old laminate cabinets, pressed wood and laminate. Some other pictures. This is, when you think about Barrier Island, there is all the lockout units, there's two style of units. There's an A and a B, and then you've got a loft. When you get into 300 and 400, there's two style of units. There's a three bedroom downstairs, a 4-bedroom upstairs. So pretty cookie cutter style throughout the property. There's many reasons we started the way we started. Building 100 is 19 units, and they are 19 drastically different floor plans. Not mildly, but drastically different. So when we started in 501, I could do the same thing in 501 all the way up, move over. If we started in the 100 building, we probably would just have gotten the 100 building done. The plan of just doing that building, we all sat down, we looked at the floor plans, and every one of them has to have a designer look at it, touch it. The contractor has to look at it and touch it. This was much easier where they could do 507 and say, we're going to copy this across the board. Same thing. Amazingly, the furnishings that were in these units, your nightstands, your tables, they're 40 years old. I don't know where they bought them, but they're like tanks. That stuff is, other than the cushion is stained, the furniture itself has been there, and it's still doing what it's supposed to do. Same thing, new doors, new trim, new paint, new floors. And I think that's it. This is what we're coming up on. Current status of what's left. We've done the 3, 4, 5. We're getting ready to start the 6 and 7. The 6 and 7 will require the plumbing along with the 8. We're planning in January, as I mentioned before, to go into the 800 building. These are the items that we're going to grab. We're going to do the additional sofa love seats, TV, lamps. There's a lounge chair or a side chair that goes in there as well. So we hope to have all that installed prior to Easter or April. Same thing, we'll take the TV, the little TV in there, we'll put it in the bedroom for any units that don't have a TV in the bedroom. And then in the fall of the year, we hit it back, hopefully hit it back, depending on how all this goes, pretty heavy. This takes planning for a fall start. That is a February, March planning period. So we start that far in advance. We will not use the same contractor that we had before. So we start fresh, and that'll be a February, March starting of building a scope, shopping it out with contractors, and then hitting the ground running typically October. When we start it all based off occupancy. When the resort's occupancy is low enough that we can move owners around and free up a building, then that's what we do. And it'll be the same scope we had before with the addition to the plumbing that'll have to go in. And that's it.
Okay. So this one here, this year's election will be a little bit easier. So the proxy you guys received in the mail had 4 candidates on there, one of which, Richard Flaherty, he actually reached out earlier this week, declining, removing his name. So as of right now, we have 3 candidates, the 3 incumbents, Austin, Chuck, and Denise. So with elections, the first thing I want to do is look to see if there's any nominations from the floor. Okay. Hearing none, I would look for a motion and a second to close nominations from the floor. David's, okay, first and a second. And then the three of you guys want to take turns and speak before your sentencing? Do you guys want to come up one by one? Give a little who you are if you want to, say a few words. I mean, it's three incumbents. What's that? Do your little 2-minute spiel. Let's give them a couple minutes to speak on who they are. You guys know them anyway, but this way, you know, why they're looking to run and so on. Okay.
All right, this is my exercise again to move this down. So I'm Denise Truesdale, president of the association. I know many of you that have been coming over the years, and I actually do want to thank you for the trust that you've given in me to lead the association over these years. You've seen the accomplishments that I've already listed earlier with this. We've been coming down to Barrier Island and have been owners here since 1990, and I would appreciate it if I could get your vote to continue the work that I've started. So thank you very much.
My name is Austin Jordan, still. I've been on the board since 2017. My wife Sheila and I have owned here since 1993. I've been in the position of vice president, have been for several years. A number of things I've been involved with: the Bylaws project, recommended a code of conduct policy for all of the board members back when I first joined the board. I sit on the Common Areas Board along with Carmen, and I think David Hancock is here. David, where are you? There he is. We oversee the common areas like the recreation center, the outdoor pool, the roads, the highways, not the highways, no, forget highways. Basically, all the things not associated with the individual buildings, the individual dwellings. My background is I'm retired Navy on 25 years, retired in 1989, took a position in the nonprofit sector. 1991, took a position as the founding CEO of a nonprofit in Hartford, Connecticut, and I stayed in that position for 25 years. 25 seems to be part of the deal here. I don't get it. I don't want to sit on this board for 25 years. No disrespect intended. I love this board. I love Barrier Island Station, but 25 is a bit much. In any event, I don't want to bore you any further. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chuck Lataki. I'm proud to be on the board. This is the end of my first term, 2 years. It was an eye-opener when I came 2 years ago. I was asked, there wasn't anybody that was going to fill the spot, and I was asked to come off the floor and join up on the board. I was defeated 2 years before that by Mr. Rich Vanelli when I did put my name in the hat to run, and defeated very handsomely by a man that had the qualifications and what he brought to the board. So not putting my name into the ranks 2 years ago, I was asked to come off the floor and I was put on the board. But what an eye-opener it is to be a part of this group here, the time and effort that it takes to put in. I think you've read my bio. I've been an owner since 1988. My wife Beth and I have two boys and 4 grandkids. Our coming to the Outer Bank Islands started back in 1978. We were down at the Emerald Isle, which was our first adventure into the Outer Banks, and just said, this is some place that we love. And we just started to venture up the Outer Banks and found duck in 1988 when we bought into it. But this is, we call it heaven, coming from where we live. it's a type of place that we brought our kids, and I see it developing now with a lot of you out there that bringing that next generation, you know, to keep this place going. It's really a diamond in the rough. The town of Duck and what this place means to so many of us. It's a challenge, but I think with the board you have, we're going to keep it going, and I appreciate your vote to stay here another 2 years. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, it's just the three incumbents. So I would then look for a motion and a second to approve, to have the secretary cast one vote in favor of the three incumbents. I hear approval? Got one. Bear with me, because I got a cut in the roof of my mouth. That's why I'm kind of talking a little funny. So just look for a motion and a second to approve to cast one vote in favor of these three incumbents to bypass the election. Favor and a second. So congratulations. Okay. Okay. Next slide's on here. I'm going to speak a little bit on some of the topics you heard about earlier, reimagining our resort or repurposing. So I have a couple slides on here that I'm going to go through, and then there's going to be a lengthier presentation afterwards by Joe. So certainly hold questions till the end, because I think a lot of your questions, you may have questions as I'm speaking, they're probably going to get answered as Joe goes through in his process. And Carmen kind of touched on some of this in his financial stuff about why repurposing. So he kind of touched on some of that, which is good. So some of the points on here is, what is the best way forward to complete unit upgrades, replace Quest plumbing, and help control costs and maintenance fees? This ties in with what Carmen was talking about. So this is really, about a year ago, we started doing due diligence, the board did, RFP process, legal consultations, and so on. And the recommendation through all that process was to proceed with repurposing, to basically fix the Quest plumbing, complete renovations, all that stuff. What is, we use the term repurposing, but really, what is it? Repurposing is converting an existing structure from one form of ownership to another. So the recommendation is converting Building 100 from timeshare to whole ownership. So that would be converting 100 owners, relocating them to different unit and weeks that are available, preferably the same week within the resort, and then selling off the property to fund Quest plumbing issues, finishing renovations, and so on. And then, really probably the big question, why Building 100? There's a couple factors that come into play with that. The cost of the repairs and the upgrades, the renovations in Building 100, the age of the building, and the location. The complex design and age, which was built in 1982, makes that building extremely expensive to repair and upgrade. So that was certainly something that was factored in as to why the recommendation would be to repurpose Building 100. The proximity to the sound and guard gate, and it's also the furthest away from the ocean. That obviously comes into the play with repurposing. So with repurposing, what are the next steps? Only Building 100 owners are required to vote and approve the repurpose. A yes vote of at least 75% will terminate the timeshare. That's for that building, Building 100. The timeshare would be repurposed into whole units, and the net proceeds would be used to complete the interior upgrades and plumbing replacement. A no vote will continue the Building 100 timeshare, and we would need to levy a special assessment to collect the necessary funds to complete the project. That was something Carmen talked about in his presentation. Building 100 owners will have the option to return their deed and be moved to a unit week in another building. There's no cost for the deed back except possibly a notary fee. You can have your RCI records updated to reflect the unit swap. Delinquent unit weeks will be foreclosed on. That's delinquencies within the 100 building. Part of this process, and you'll see this in Joe's presentation, there'll be multiple webinars, documentation, and education will be made available starting today. to address your concerns and help you make your decision. One thing that your board really wants to do is make sure that owners have all their questions answered. Whatever questions come up, they want to make sure they're answered, whether they might not be today. You might leave here, driving home, think about things. It might be a week or so on. They want to make sure they've educated everybody about the process, why to vote, why the recommendation is to vote yes. Really just make sure that you're comfortable with it and make sure that everything is answered for you. And then a plan will be established for existing owners to have first option to purchase a whole unit as well. And that's if it's voted yes by the owners to proceed, by the 100 owners to proceed, then that would be an option as well. And then after this, there's going to be some further on repurposing specifically. There'll be a couple webinars set up. We're working on the mailing for that. Didn't want to send it, while we have the annual meeting going on. So probably next week, that'll start the process. Over the next 2 weeks or so, you'll be getting postcard mailing about that, webinars. And then you'll see those in Joe's presentation as well. So I think once Joe finishes his, there's certainly going to be a Q&A. But I think a lot of your questions are probably going to get answered as Joe goes through his repurposing slides. Okay, turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Thank you, Justin. I stand between you and questions, so here we go. If you're in here and you own in Building 100, raise your hand. A lot of you, okay. If you're on YouTube and you own in Building 100, raise your hand. We can't see any of you, but we just want to make sure you're still awake out there, right? We really can't see them, so. All right, here's what I want to do. Fill in some blanks, talk about why and how, right? And how a little more detail on how the process really works. So the team, right? We've actually been talking to the board for probably 3 or 4 years at a really high level. Like this is an option, and then over the last year, your board did due diligence. They called our references. They interviewed other companies. There's a couple that are in the space, and we're fortunate, as you'll hear as we go through, to be part of the team. So why are we here? I'm Joe Takis, by the way. You may know me from MVP. I'm your on-site sales broker. We're getting close to 400 transactions over the last 8 or 9 years with MVP. I take listings. I'm North Carolina broker. But we have been retained by your board to help with the process and the money, and we'll talk about that as I dive into this. So that's why we're here. And let me say, you've heard it 3 or 4 times. You're going to hear it again. Nothing happens without a vote of the 100 building owners. Board can't do it by themselves. Just doesn't work that way. So who are we? I already mentioned that. I'm a broker in 42 states. I know many of you in the room. It's a blessing to be here. Most importantly, from a repurpose standpoint, we've done 15 in 8 different states. So hopefully along the way, we've learned the moving parts and the little subtleties to help us get to the finish line. And because you'll hear that, it's a pretty lengthy process. Again, thank you for being here. You've heard that. I already told you, nothing happens, right? Now we want to put it in writing because it's going to be really important if you're in 100. And your board is, as you know from today, and if you've been at annual meetings before, really zealous about communicating. And our job is to make sure you understand what you're voting on. Hey, Joe, if I pick door A, right? If I vote no, what does that mean? If I vote yes, what does that mean? And how does it work? That's our job, to help you through it. We'll talk to you individually, whatever you need, especially if you're in Building 100 to understand. So here's what I'm going to go through. If the slide will change. I'm going to do a little background, 2 slides, 40,000 feet. I want to talk about background from an industry standpoint. I'm going to talk about options, right, for the Building 100 owners, talk about the vote, and then, as I've already said, when I'm done, we're going to respond to all kinds of questions, not just on repurpose. So let's fly at 40,000 feet a second. There are, in the United States, 1,100-ish timeshare resorts that are not a brand, okay? They're not Wyndham, Marriott, Hilton, Disney. They're barrier. There's 1,100 of them. They are where you would expect them to be, right? All the vacation places around the country. Just some background data, right, of of the family of resorts that we're in. In the industry, and its infinite wisdom, if you go back to when the lawyers created it, right? Most of it, the people bought 20, 30, 40 years ago, like you've heard today. Like you're not everybody, but a lot, right? And over the years, while this has been going on, for all the hard stuff to talk about, some people need to move on, right? We've lost them. They used to live in Raleigh, and now they moved to Phoenix, right? They're not coming back. All of that real world stuff. So as Carmen gave you the numbers earlier, and I'll give them to you again in a different way, we should have this many people paying, and we only have this many people paying. And so you got right now 55% of the people paying 100% of the bills, right? The guy on TV, you've seen him, right, in the nice tie, telling you timeshare is the dumbest thing you ever did, and if you just pay him $10,000, he'll get you out of it. When you package all of that, the inefficient secondary market that I'm in, it is hard in some cases to sell timeshare. The business of operating a timeshare resort is challenging. Things exist today, Airbnb, Vrbo, all of that didn't exist when you bought your timeshare. Just different options, right, for the generations behind us. When you look at barriers specifically, now this slide's going to look incredibly the same because it is, right? Our owners bought now we didn't start till '82, but our owners bought back then. Many of them have moved on. We got people not paying. We have an inefficient secondary market. We got an aging owner base, right? The kids don't always want it. And we have the bad guys too. There's intervals today that are owned at Barrier by the scam companies that they set up, which is how they do business. So here's the challenge. How do we as a business, right? We're all in a business. It's a timeshare resort with your governing elders here, right? How do we as a business, with an increasing delinquency, and yet a whole bunch of people that want to stay? I talk to you. I mean, I've sold to many of you because we love the resort. What do we do, right? What are our real options? It's easy to just say we'll just raise the fees, right? So here's the specific numbers at Barrier. Carmen's kind of given them to you. But overall, you have 115 units times 51 weeks. The other one is a maintenance week, right? So Walter can have at least one set aside. I should have put these on earlier so I can actually see the so you got 35% of now this is in all buildings, right? 100 in all of them. 35% of your weeks are not paying. Another 10%, and these are rough, right? Not exactly 10, are already in the name of the IOA, of the association. So, and you all own them. So you can do the math, right? We got your budget for next year, as Carmen's already said, you got a 55% paying 100% of the bills. And again, back to the challenge. You don't really have to do a deep dive in the financials to say, that's a challenge, right? And your board said, all right, we got a changing industry. I use the word declining. We have fewer owners paying. What are our options other than the obvious? And the board said time out. Did some homework, talked to people that are in the industry, RCI, Interval, and one of the new options, and it really is new, is this thing called Repurpose, and that's what I want to talk about. So think, right, if we should have this many paying and we only have this many, what if we shrunk the resort? What if we made the resort a little bit smaller, move the building 100 owners into the other buildings? We have less expenses, right? Makes us more efficient. That's at a high level, and I'm going to explain that. That's the plan. That's the thought. That's the ask coming from the board of the 100 owners. Why building 100? You've already heard it. Farthest from the beach, oldest. I guess we could have picked 500 or 300, but we're going to go with 100 and see what the 100 owners think and see if we can't make it work. Why not more buildings? If anybody's thinking that, why didn't you do 2? And it's a simple answer, one step at a time. let's see the reaction. Let's see how the owners feel about it, and we will. As you see, as Justin mentioned, we do have a couple more webinars, which will be this presentation, by the way. We'll just do it on Zoom. We'll probably have a couple hundred people. So here's your Building 100 numbers. Here's the idea. There are about 560 owners in Building 1 that are current that we have to move. Now that's a moving target, right? Because somebody goes current and somebody goes delinquent and all of that. But these are pretty close. If you own in Building 100, and I saw all the hands, right, and you've already heard and you're already thinking, where are you going to move me, right? We believe that, well, now we know that we have the space in the other buildings to give you an equivalent unit in a week. It's going to be a drill. You're all going to want the first floor in the 800 building. I can tell you it's not available. But we have the space on a global level. And we started talking about, and it's a really deep dive of how we manage it and, you know, who gets first choice of this building. And those are details we got to work through. But what we know is if you have a 2-bedroom Building 1 in week 32, I can give you a 2-bedroom in another building in week 32. So just hold that for the moment as you think about if you're in the 100 building. So what are the options? And they should be obvious, right? We can keep doing what we're doing. No one's telling you otherwise. You have a recommendation from the board. It shouldn't be terribly complicated to think 55% of the people paying 100% of the bills, you know, we got to figure out how to sell more, but costs are going to go up. I mean, there's just no other realistic way to look at it if we don't aggressively pursue some other options. So, but we can. That's the message. We don't want a 100 owner to leave and feel like, I really like my 100 unit. Okay, then maybe you want to stay there. So, again, and I said this a minute ago, all we want, my job is to help you understand if I pick this door, that's what it means. If I pick this door, that's what it means. And yeah, we're putting a little bit on that on the owners of Building 100, but we had to start somewhere. And if we can really get you in like space, hopefully we can, you can see the business plan. The other option is repurpose. What is it? Can it really be done? Who am I? Which I've already talked about. The answer to all those is yes, it can be done. It has been done by more companies than ourselves. Here's the moving parts, again, at a really high level. Justin said it. We're gonna. If you think of a timeshare, right? You take a whole condo, cut it into 52 pieces. We got to glue them back together, make it look like it was never cut. Legally, not a pretty fun. We have to search 52 weeks in all 18 units in Building 1. The 19th unit's already a whole unit. Got to go all the way back to the beginning in that search. We got to foreclose on all the delinquent people. We got to foreclose. Carmen mentioned it earlier. We've already done 60. We'll have to do more so that I have the space to move you, which is what I just told you. So we have to clean up some of that space. Foreclosures in North Carolina are not fun. I don't, there's a worse way to say that, but they just take way longer than they should. You know, we're doing this in 8 different states. I can get a foreclosure done in Texas in 45 days. And you know, we've been waiting 4 months for the finish of the 60 that we have. It just takes a while. You know, and when you put guardrails on, well, Joe, how long is this going to take? Well, when we have to foreclose on roughly 500 and change weeks, you know, we're staring at probably 2027 before we actually wrap it up. And then think of okay, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to sell 18 whole units. You going to renovate them? Maybe, right? We don't have to answer that today, but we got to answer it pretty quick, because if we're going to renovate them, we got to start now. A lot of times buyers will say, Joe, please don't renovate them. I don't want you to pick the granite countertop and the flooring. I want to pick my own. So those are just all, but that's a moving part in how do we get to the finish line. And I am going to give you numbers, by the way. So when you look at all of the moving parts that I just told you, here's what it costs. And could be even low on the foreclosures when we do that many. $1,500 a week, each one. So we have almost $750,000 just in foreclosures. You got the search work. I put $80,000 a unit in, maybe and we've already started talking to brokers just to get a feel, right, for the market. Maybe we don't renovate them, right? If we don't, then there's $1.4 million there that maybe we don't have to spend. But here's really the only question: are you going to renovate them or not? Can we get our money back? And I'll talk about the math, because the goal here is, if we're going to do this, create as much capital from the sale of the units after we pay expenses. So $3,063,810. Where's that going to come from? Right? There's two obvious answers. You know the first one. You don't like it any more than the board does. No, I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, you're already paying $1,000 for a fee. Who wants another special assessment? The other option is from us. So in addition to MVP, we have a company called Tove. I'd love to tell you it was my money. It's not. But we have credit facilities with lenders that'll bring the money. So we bring the money in exchange for a piece of the pie at the end. Get nothing along the way, no travel, no nothing. So what do you mean a piece of the pie, Joe? Remember, we're going to sell them all. Then we're going to have our $3 million in expenses. If that's where it ends up, there's a net. I just want a piece of the net. I want to be in the same boat as you. I want a piece of the pie at the end. The rest of it goes to your association. And we've agreed, as you'll see, I think I have the numbers. And let me get to the next slide. So summary of why we're here. We provide the money. We do the work. We've worked with title companies all over the place. Because there's only one acceptable goal when you think about this process. I can sell 18 units underwritten with a title policy. And when you bring in a First American, a Fidelity, the underwriters, if you've ever bought a house, most of you have, you got a title policy. Well, they don't have gray. It's black and white. This is what they want. This is how it has to be done. The vote has to be proper, all of those moving parts. The only acceptable outcome is so that we can sell them and maximize the money. That's why we're here. If the Building 100 owners want to go down that road to help us get to the finish line. And the proceeds, the nice part is we've already agreed that we'll advance, although we've already started talking about, because money's not free, we'll advance up to $1.5 million. So that they don't have to ask you for it. So part of the thought process in Repurposing 100 is we throw an initial chunk of cash in. There's more at the end, right? Because the $1.5 million was just an advance on the HOA's proceeds, so that you don't have to do it. Plus, from a long-term standpoint, we have less expenses, right? Less property taxes, less insurance, because now that's a whole condo. A whole unit facility, just like Building 2, right? Still contributing to the pool, the rec center, the roads, so none of that changes. The bottom line, I just want to put a couple numbers on it. And these are just, and we've talked to brokers, because if you're thinking about the math, right? Well, what could we sell one of those units for? The last unit in the 200 building, renovated, pretty nice, I looked at it, sold for over $6. Okay? Ours are not renovated. And when I give you budget numbers, they're not padded, but they're conservative. We believe that's the right thing to do. So there's a $350, $450. So if we can sell them for $450, you can put almost $3 million in your checking account when we're done. I don't know when we get to 2026, 2027, I can't predict the real estate market, but just if it were today, right, if we could sell them today, which we can't, Those are the conversations you go through. So that's the vote, right? When it comes to the Building 100 owners, everyone else needs to understand too, because it affects the entire association. And you've already heard, right? The owners in Building 100, you're going to vote to decide what happens with Building 100 and if you'll be part of that plan so we can move. So again, we can keep doing what we're doing, right? Building 100, no. A no vote will be, nope, I don't want to do it. A yes vote will be, like the plan, let's get after it and repurpose Building 100. Compress the resort. And I want to go back to that. Oh, yeah, and it seems to all of us, as we've talked about it, that it's a win-win. A little bit of a hassle for 100 owners, but we'll make that okay. We'll get them where they want to go. If you own outside of the summer, we may be able to upgrade a little bit, right? Maybe you own in week 44 and you'd love to own in 42. Based on availability, we probably can make things like that happen as we're going through the process. And I can tell you, your board is all about taking care of owners, as you know. So let me wrap up, and I'll be done. We talked background, right? Just a unique industry with some things that are changing. We talked about your options. You got the vote coming. And I think, okay, here's what's next. We have 3 people on our team, myself, Dana, and Sydney. Some of you know those people that we've dedicated to this. We absolutely encourage you, if you need to ask questions your way, you want to have your CPA, your lawyer, your kids on the call, please call us. That's why we're there. We'll do this privately and individually, especially if you're in the Building 100, right? We are committed to helping you understand what we're talking about. There's 2 more webinars. I'll put the dates up. Justin already mentioned you're going to get a postcard. Number 5, don't let me leave that. If this process is approved, we're going to have 18 whole condos to sell. Maybe you want one of them. We're going to work through a plan. Everywhere we've done this at the other 15, a timeshare owner has always bought at least 2. That's the lowest number we've had so far. We had 9 in Indian Wells, California. I'm not saying you have to. It's not a sales pitch. I don't even know what I'd sell it to you for today. But if you are interested, you're going to get first look. First pick of the units. I'll be talking to you saying, do you want me to renovate it? Or not. So that's going to be something that we talk about as the plan goes forward. There's your webinars. You will get notice of this. Email, postcard, Monday night, December 2nd at 6:30, and then Saturday morning. It is this presentation. So if you want to hear it again, it'll be recorded, the Zoom webinars. We're going to have, I call them Tove notes, Cliff notes, we all remember those. We're going to have one of those. We already have FAQs, really doing our best to help you understand. I'm going to leave that slide up a little bit. I already told you could call any one of us because you can, and we look forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Okay. So we're now into the question and answer. I know a lot of you have questions, and what I'd ask is that you come to the mic, and can you come to the mic? And the questions that you ask, it's going to take the gamut between any questions that you have about the resort in general and any questions that you have about what you have repurposing. We have plenty of time now for that. And as a reminder, you have 2 FAQs that you should have received in your packets. One is the FAQs that were sent that were related to the resort and the annual meeting, and the other is the repurposing FAQ. So if you would be so kind so that we can hear your questions, come up and answer them, we'll be happy to work with you. Thank you.
As an owner of a 100 unit, what do I do? I pulled it low. Oh, as an owner of a 100 unit, We've had it since 1990. Garth was born in 1991. It is a unit that doesn't have a lot of steps. It is a unit that has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths up. We have RCI'd weeks, we have RCI'd points, we have traded. We have had 3 units. We luckily had 3 units for the 3 assessments that we have had over that time. Whenever we tried to trade, we could not get a 3-bedroom, sleeps 8 in Myrtle or Hilton Head. And this is a really, high points, high weeks, whatever you call it. We always had to have less people sleeping. When we moved within Barrier Island, to me, a lockout A or B with 1 bedroom and 1 sleep sofa is not the same thing, even if you had the A and B, as 2 bedrooms and 2 sleep sofas. So my concern, I haven't traded for every single building unit, what is possibly comparable to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths that I would trade for if I vote yes?
A 3-bedroom and a 2-bath, right? I mean,
It's, sorry, close. It would be a 3-bedroom in the 300 or 400 building, and those are both lower levels. So the 300, all 3 bedrooms in the 300 building are first level. In the 400 building, they're considered first level, but they have a few stairs that get you up into the front door. It is a queen, 2 twins, king, and a sleeper. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yep. And the lockouts will if you are on the top floor. The top floor have a 3rd bedroom, but you have to be on the top floor. Yes, ma'am.
the other thing I want to add is it's going to be detailed, but if she's on the first floor in a 3-bedroom, she gets first pick of a first floor in a 3-bedroom. And we're going to work our way through that one at a time. It's the only fair way to do it. And so it'll be a drill, a lot of work, but we'll get through it. Sir?
So my question is about building 800. I have 2 units there. I caught that you're putting new furniture in and those sorts of things, but when is the actual renovation to that building look like it's going to happen?
We're looking to start fall of 2025.
So it's coming up this year?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. We're giving you the sofas and stuff through the high season, and then we're looking to restart the renovations fall of 2025. I don't know, as I mentioned before, we start those plans in February. There hasn't been talk of we're going to start in 800 or 700 or 600. So I can't tell you that 800 is the first one we're going to start it, but renovations will start fall of 2025, basically a year from now.
All right, let me ask it differently. When do you expect to be completed with them? What's left to be done?
It took us, we were able to do the 500 and the 300, which was 50-some units in one off-season. That's 36 units. Lockouts go a little faster. I don't know that we'll get that 72, 84 that has to be done. I don't think we'll get 84 in one off-season. So there will be a portion of that, and I say a portion of 6, 7, and 8 that will not make it in that off-season. Okay. And maybe with a new contractor, maybe that's different, but with the previous contractor, which we're not using, we would not have been able to do 84 in one off-season.
So it sounds like expectations are in 2026 timeframe.
Start in 2025 and roll into 2026 if needed. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Oh, yep.
I just wanted to add one fact, big fact, is, as I mentioned, we don't have the funds to complete these upgrades. That schedule is contingent on the 100 owners, 75% of them, approving this repurposing. That approval will allow us to start to draw down the line of credit from TOBE. That will give us the money to fully go through this schedule that Walter just quoted. We have about 1.3 million in the bank or coming, but we have a demand for almost $3 million. So this is why the vote is extraordinarily important to be able to hit that schedule and complete the remaining upgrades that we need to do. Thank you. Or the assessment, that becomes the option.
I was wondering if the repurposing goes through, how will, and then these units are sold to individuals, how will they contribute to the running of the resort?
They will be creating their own individual building association in much the same way that the Building 200 does, okay? And what we would probably have to do, no, not probably, we will have to do, is we'll have to recompute the percentages that the 200 building contributes and ostensibly the 100 building contributes, as well as the BIS owners contribute. Typically, the lion's share of the contributions to the running of the common areas of the resort is always going to come from the IOA. There will not be enough individually owned buildings, at least not in my lifetime. There'll not be enough individually owned unit associations to contribute more than the IOA, but that's how that will play out. Does that answer the question?
Yes, so they would set up an HOA for the 100 building, and the HOA would contribute their portion.
Exactly, exactly.
Along that line is, just as we do not provide services to the 200 building, if they have a clogged sink, they don't call Bill Weeks, they call their property manager. So the same thing would happen with 100. They won't be using our resources for anything internal to that building. Their HOA will be responsible. They may use the same management company, if they'll contract separately, or they could go to a different management company, but it'll be their responsibility.
Okay, it seems, I'm in a Building 100 owner. It seems like we're going to have to vote before we know what we're going to get. You know, as far as, am I going to get first floor, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that kind of thing in one of the other buildings, or am I going to be out of luck? Is there even any thought to an option of a buyout? If we can't come to an agreement, this is the kind of place I want, I'll take X amount of dollars instead. And then this comment on the whole overall resort. One of the things my wife and I loved was that deck down by the pool, so that we could go underneath in the shade and stay out of the sun. I'd love to have you all consider putting that back in sometime.
Let me take a shot at your question. We believe we have enough space to move everybody. Is it the ideal situation for you? I can't, you know, until we start to do it. And as far as the buyout, if it defeats the purpose, right? If we, and let me give you a different example, because we're not contemplating the whole resort here, nor, in my opinion, should we. But we're doing a resort in Utah where it's only 14 units. Well, they're doing the whole thing. So at the end of it, the owners are all getting a check, not the association. So if we were to go down that road, we haven't accomplished anything, because we don't give cash to the remaining buildings 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 because we paid it to distributed it to the owners. So the plan is to make you happy.
Okay.
Now, can I 560 times today tell everybody where they're going to go? And I can't. I guess we could put this off and go down that road and try to do that. Seems like a monumental exercise. We know we have the space. We know we have 560 holes. We haven't gone all the way down to, you know, we know we have enough 2 bedrooms. We know we have enough 3 bedrooms. I haven't gone to the next step of, how many first floor 3 bedrooms do I need, and do I have that many? That's the next detail we're working on.
Well, I'm a week 35, so.
Probably a little easier, actually. Yeah, and what now, 25 to 32 are going to be the hardest ones. When you get past 32, it eases up a little bit.
But you might actually
because
be in
kids are
another
back
week in
school.
that same
Yes,
general
sir.
time frame. So
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't wind up with a 40 or a 50.
No.
Okay.
No, we can't. I can get you in 35. Maybe it's 34. You know, maybe after I talk to you, you say, you know, Joe, I'll take 36. I'm not saying you should. It's just going to be one at a time, right? Okay. There's no other way to get there. Okay.
This question is for Walter, I think specifically. I kept seeing and hearing that the building 300 is completely renovated. Is that correct?
To the current scope. There's another scope that, obviously based on funding, whether we'll be able to go back and do kitchens and baths. Yes, and the additional FF&E.
Okay. That concerns me. We have Unit 308, and we were there this summer, week number 30, and we didn't complain because we just assumed that most of the work hadn't been done. It looked a little bit shabby, a lot shabby. So that does concern me. And I hope you'll look into that.
Yeah, and I'd be happy.
We're at the very top, so people don't get up there a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was my first concern. All right, my second question, and I don't know if you can answer it. I don't think this is for you. This is about the 100 building thing. And this might be for the board as a whole or whoever can answer to the numbers. Does it look like we'll be going through this process with other buildings?
Well, I addressed that in one of my slides, and because we talked about it, and the board said, let's do building 100. Let's see the reaction. Let's see how successful we are. The challenge is the summer, right? If we picked another building today, I can't look you guys in the eye and say I have enough holes in the summer to move everybody. Mm-hmm. So that was where the board said, look, we got way many people that still like barrier, not just in June, July, and August. You know, April, May, September, October, very, very popular. So we're going to get through building 100 and see where we are. Because we're not even going to finish that till 27 by the time we're done. So that's the best answer. I mean, they can jump in, but that's the best answer we have for today.
And I know I was kind of asking you to look at a crystal ball, but we love this barrier island, and we want to make sure that it's going to be around for our great-grandkids.
The answer really rests out here. It's how we address the problem that we talked about today. If there was a groundswell of owners who said, I don't want to be here anymore, and if we have enough space, as I was saying, it really depends on the owner base. If the owners support the timeshare regime, we're not pushing this. I mean, we're not trying to force out anyone. We're trying to rationalize the finances, the supply-demand imbalance. The biggest issue we have is what Joe just described. It's a big seasonal imbalance. If you were simply to look at the numbers, 55% paying, we could do this to 2 buildings easily, except a lot of people aren't going to be very happy because they're not going to have a summer week to go to. So that becomes the issue. If this is successful, people see it, but they like the result, and they at least maintain paying the bills, we don't see another one happening. But if the groundswell starts to say, you know, we want to do this, or our performance starts to drop further, you know, more and more delinquents, it becomes, it's an option we owe it to you to explore and just to see how it works out. But there's no plan to do that, no.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to add one thing to that. I'm the Pollyanna here, but basically it looks like, based on the last 2 sessions now, that we're making improvements. So as Carmen mentioned, it's not our intent to shut down, and we've been in existence here all this time where others have failed. So as long as we have the participation and we keep going, we keep going. We've been doing this now for 7 years. So to a testament here, what's been happening is that we've been covering, making up the slack for those that we haven't had. And so the levels that we're at now, we're just trying to do something to help to offset that.
Okay, couple of questions. First of all, let me review the bidding and the fact that the vote for Building 100 is if they say yes, then there will not be a special assessment. If they say no, that special assessment is going to be for everybody, right? Including Building 100. Yeah, okay, so they have to understand that somewhere along the line, they're going to pay for it either way. All right. Building 600 is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. We've kind of aged out of that. And you know, when did you say, Walter, you're going to do 600?
The start of renovations, if this goes through, will be fall of 2025. There is not a specific schedule set out of those 3 buildings of when that will start.
Okay. I've contemplated selling Building 600. I'm week 33, and it's I'm the penthouse, so 606 A and B, so it sleeps 10. It's a wonderful place. But I'm led to believe that if I wanted to sell it back to Barrier Island, or you could put it in your hands, that I would have to be paying you to take it off my hands. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a deed back policy. We have a deed back program
Okay.
that allows you to exit your unit. It costs $2,995 that you pay us. We don't pay you. But it's a guaranteed exit, unlike the world out there that says, let us get you out of your timeshare. So, because what happens when you exit, that's one less owner paying the bills that everybody else has to pay. So that gives us a little bit of working capital to try and figure out what to do with that unit. Sell it to someone else, rent it, what have you. We also do swaps. I work with folks to try to get them from one unit that they have now into a different unit. Maybe it's a lower level unit, maybe it's a larger unit, maybe it's a unit in a different season. People want to leave or trade for different purposes. So a swap is another option to make up for those of us who are aging, let's say, and don't want to climb 45 steps any longer.
That's one of our problems.
Yeah, I'm going to credit my wife for this. Okay, she brought up this idea some years ago. I brought it to the board, and we developed this program. We developed the deed back program and the swap program from her suggestions. So, and it's all about trying to maintain the owner base, be as accommodating as we can, and if we can't, give a legal exit to those who go. Now, we don't accept every deed back. We accept basically a maximum of 60 a year. That's 1% of our member base. So on my numbers that I showed up there about next year's performance, going from 55 today to 54 next year, that's 1%. That's 60 deeds. In the deed backs, if we get 60 deed back requests, that will take care of that 1%. That pulls 1% out of the revenue pool, but it's made up or offset by the fees that we charge.
Okay, and I've tried to have it rented through you guys, but because I'm an owner and you have a bunch of excess properties right now, I think I'm probably at the bottom of the list. Is that right?
I can't address owner rentals. That would be our capital vacations team here.
Yeah, we can certainly rent it for you, but it is, I mean, depends on how much inventory is already available for the week you have.
Now, week 33, yeah.
So, I mean, there's a good chance we'll rent it, but there's still, if there's already 15 weeks available, it's going to be, you know, towards the bottom of the list. So it just depends on how much inventory is already in there for that week.
Okay, well, one last thing, folks. 60633, penthouse, sleeps 10, week 33. It's available. Give me a call.
I do want to add 2 things. I have a list of people that want to buy summer. I don't have it with me, so I can't tell you who's on it for 33. I also have 3 people that when you get to the point, I'm not saying you should, when you get to the point where you're just ready to move on and you're not trying to chase a couple of bucks and you're willing to go down in price. I have 3 people that they'll only buy cheap, but they'll buy summer.
You mean like a
and
buck?
I've moved a lot to them, so just let me know and
We'll
I can
speak
reach
later.
out to them. Yeah, just.
Thank you.
Next.
So, you mentioned the possibility of going on to other buildings. I have 313, so building 3. I bought it like 15 years ago. I think it was like a foreclosure. I got it pretty cheap, in other words. I have never, ever been in my unit on week 21. Never. I've been here at Barrier Island Station. I got the offer when I was up on the top of building 400 someplace. Oh, I tell you what, it's really windy up there on those stairs lots of times, but I loved building 400. I've been to building 400 2 or 3 more times. I think we've been to another building, I don't remember which one, but bottom line, when you go along, do this 100 thing and are successful, if it happens to be building 3 that you're saying
There's no plan today to do a second building.
I know.
But why
I've
don't,
never been in
why
my
don't you
unit.
swap
I don't
to building
care.
400?
Huh?
We have a swap plan.
Yeah.
If you want to reach out to me, I'll let you know what's available and you can change what you own to 400.
I don't need to. I've never seen the inside of my unit.
Okay.
I
thought you said you liked 400
I
better.
use my exchange points.
Okay.
When I come here,
Perfect.
I love it here. When I go other places 2 or 3 weeks from my 1 week on a 3-bedroom. So I'm very pleased, but I don't care about my individual unit. I can easily exchange that for a different unit in the complex, in my opinion. So I love the idea of downsizing the resort to raise our participation rate by lowering our number of units.
Right.
It's great to me.
Thank you.
I like the idea of no additional assessments.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Hancock. I own 2 timeshares. I also own in the 200 building. So I have a few questions. One is when you were talking earlier about the 87-13 split that we have, where the 200 building pays 13% of things that go on in the common grounds. And you were saying how if this goes through with the 100 building, that there would be some restructuring where they would also pay a percentage. When you talk about restructuring, are you saying changing our 13% that we are already paying?
No, Carmen. Building 100 is already paying the common areas. You just pay it as an association.
What I'm saying is if the 100 sale goes through, where they have their own HOA,
It won't change for you.
which is separate from our 200 HOA, and then whatever percentage they pay, they're not going to change what we're paying now with our 13% in our 200 building.
Nothing will change.
The number of condominium units is not changing.
Right.
Forget intervals.
But when he said it's restructuring, I just want to make sure that they're not going to change our 13%.
But the 200 building still has 13% of the units on the
Right.
property.
Okay.
The 100 building has 19 units. You have 18.
18.
So their percentage will go, maybe let's call it 15%. So what that means, you would pay 13%, they would pay arguably 15. The IOA pays the rest. So
Right.
our association would pay fewer dollars into the common area fund.
Okay.
That's how it would work.
I have a couple other questions. So I was looking at, it says page 8 on the proposal, and where it says estimated sales prices. So at the $350,000 per unit, it says that the total that Barrier Island would get would be $2.578 million. But if we actually sold them for $350,000, it's actually $5.1 million. So I do understand realtors get a portion, but half? Well, there really shouldn't be expenses. Like I'm looking, hang on. So right next door at Sea Colony, at the Colony by the Sea, that's 2 doors down, they have a unit right now for sale for $400,000. It's a one bedroom, 2-bath, 670 square feet for $400,000. So there's no reason why we couldn't sell these ourselves for $350,000 apiece and not pay $2.5 million.
I hope it's much higher than that.
Huh?
I hope it's much higher than 350.
I know,
I gave a
but-
range of if we sold it for this, if we
Right.
sold it for this, if we sold it for this.
But 350,000 times 18 units is $5.1 million. But with this, we're only getting 2.578.
What was the expenses it took us to get before we had something to sell? I gave you the slide.
Yeah,
It's $3 million.
I don't think it's going to cost $3 million. Another question that I have, talking about the foreclosures and how expensive the foreclosures are, especially the ones that are red weeks that we want to get a hold of, have we considered to help relocate people in the 100 building for this purpose? That if anybody has summer months that want to just get rid of them, and instead of them going through the expense of the foreclosure, which is, what did you say, like
At
several
least
thousand dollars?
At least $1,500.
Then why don't we instead allow a few people that have summer months to just give it back, and basically the only cost is the, what, $450,000 of transfer
The
of
ones
deed?
we have to foreclose on we have to foreclose because we have to. They've passed away, we can't find them anymore. Most of the summer inventory sold.
Okay.
And we always give a delinquent owner the opportunity to deed it back in lieu of foreclosure.
Right.
If we can talk to them.
Right, the deed back is a few $1,000s, and some people are like, I don't even want to pay that. I didn't know if some people that are in that position,
would
if
always
they could
take 'em
just
back without
give them
expense.
back because they're a good summer month to help
Right.
the people with the 100 building. Okay, yeah.
Hello there. I have a couple questions. What is the breakdown of the 100 building? How many 2-bedroom and how many 3-bedroom units are in that building?
I'm trying to remember too, and we just, no, the number of,
That's
the
that's
number
not
of
the
weeks
units,
we're on
that's
it.
the number needed.
It's about in the middle of the 18, but I'm not 100% sure of that. What's your next question?
My next question is, and this is probably Carmen, I'm sorry to put you on the spot here. On that projected cost to complete the refurbishment, I just had a question about, it's broken down by A units, the B units, and the A lofts. I did have a question, if I did my math here, under the FF and E, wouldn't the cost for an A-bedroom loft be higher per unit than like a regular A unit?
The eight-bedroom loft is only that third bedroom that's up on the, those units have like a second floor essentially. Those penthouse units are two-level units. There's staircase up there. So there's not much up there compared to an A unit. So the A loft is simply the loft portion of those A units. So the brunt of the expense is in the A unit definition. That'll be your sofas, love seats, tables, those kinds of things. Upstairs is just the bedroom.
Then
Or
shouldn't
two
the
bed.
number of A units match the number of B units?
Well, every A unit has a B unit, but not every A-B unit has an A loft. 1/3 of the lockouts are third-floor units. They have the loft. 2/3 are just A-B units.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Hi. I own Week 43 in Building 318. And so I came here to ask if anybody wanted it today, but it doesn't sound as good as the other one that was offered up. But I listed with you and offered if anybody would take it, I would give them $1,000 if they took the unit. Nothing. And for the deed back, I've done that, and if you don't, and I sat up till midnight and clicked. The minute it turned October 1st, I clicked send, and I never got in because I live in Newport News, and they were already full. So it sounds like the only way I can really get rid of this unit, and we still pay, even though we haven't been here for 10 years. But we didn't know in our value system that not paying was an option. So, but it sounds like we need to not pay, and then you'll go into foreclosure and take it. Isn't there a better way?
Well, I think we should probably talk after this with Walter, because Walter's team runs the deed back process. But I could suggest to you, the better way is not to not pay, because that'll be a foreclosure on your record. It doesn't matter if you go belly up on a timeshare interval or if you go belly up on your primary residence. It's going to look the same on your record. It's not, my personal guidance is that's not the way to go.
My husband wouldn't do that anyway.
So I know, but no, see us afterwards. See us afterwards, please.
Thank you.
Good morning. So I just want to start by thanking you guys for what you do. I know it's all volunteer. I thought the presentation was very helpful. Yep. Thank you. Much appreciated. Owner for decades, inherited it from my father, and we've been coming every week, every year, and love the resort. First owners meeting, confess, it's nice to see your faces. So we checked in last night at about 5:30. Jasmine was running around like a chicken with her head cut off. I mean, the poor girl there's just too much going on. We own in the 700, we're currently in the 500. So it was a long drive, ready for that glass of wine on the deck, and the unit's not clean. The bed is a mess, the towels are in the tub. There's dishes. It stinks. We had the doors open and the fan on. It was musty. More concerning, and I don't know when 505B last checked out, the coffee maker was on. It was hot. I mean, you couldn't touch the countertop. I don't know how that happened, how long it'd been there, but I mean, it's a wood building. It's not good, right? So that was concerning. I echo someone else's concern. Is 505B like checked off as remodeled? Wow, because the wood flooring on the stairs is splitting. There's nail pops in the walls. Maybe this is the contractor you're not using anymore, but there's bizarre gaps in the molding on the at the floor. There's not a piece of artwork on the anywhere in the whole unit. I don't get that. So that concerns me. Anyway. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that for years I have done the monthly payment to VRI and, paid in advance, and then when the assessments come through, it debits it. And out of the blue, I got in my bank account, let's see, August, September, last month, a refund of my monthly contribution this was returned, no reason was provided. I said, that's pretty weird. And I went online, and I wasn't able to get into where I could set up the e-payment. I'm like, well, I don't know what happened, because you guys debit me. I don't do it through the bank, right? So I called and went through, I don't know, 3-4 people, numbers, call this one, that one. They said, the last payment we got from you was in August. I'm like, well, I'm telling you, I made 2 since then, and one's come back, and I don't know where they are. The other one's still in limbo. I've gone onto the site a couple of times to see if I could set it up, and it's under construction. But nobody there would listen to what I was saying. It was really frustrating. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And if in fact there is an issue, or the site is under construction, or they're figuring out something, that needs to be communicated.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there isn't, because they're taking payment plans, setting up ACHs all the time. So if you see me after the meeting, because I want to take your information down, because I want to go through your account and have somebody in billing do the same to then reach out to you, because it's set up like clockwork, so that your ACH is going to come out monthly.
I know.
If there's a change in accounts or something.
I know how it works, but I mean, I changed nothing.
Yeah.
And the payment I made in, let's see, that was August, September, nobody knows where that is. It's it's not there, and it's certainly not in my bank account, so.
Okay. See me, so I can take your information down?
Okay.
Because then it'll take me a couple of days, but I'll have to do research on it with the billing team to get back to you on it as well. But it should be something they can
I
straighten
couldn't
out.
get it bumped up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like nobody, well, that's what I show kind of mentality, so, anyway, thank you.
Yes, I don't know who this question goes to, but I have 2 units, and my wife bought one before we were married, and now she's passed, and that unit is in her name only. And what's the easiest way for me to get that unit in my name?
When did your wife pass?
2 years ago.
Is her estate closed?
As far as I know. I mean,
Yeah, you got a problem.
what do you mean the state
Well,
closed? What does that mean?
My mother passed about 6 years ago, and I was administrator of her estate. Right? I'm not a lawyer, by the way.
Okay.
And we can put you in touch with the people that do our closings, which is what we should do. So give me your name, and I'll let you talk to the people that are lawyers. But I can tell you what they're going to say. Title needs to be transferred, because right now it's in the name of your wife, who we've lost. The only way to transfer it is, and again, back to my mother, that's the best example I can give. So she owned a house, right?
Okay.
My mom, I was the administrator of the estate, which gave me the authority to sign on her behalf, and we sold the house. So, but you can only do that while the estate's open, the probate process. And then we got to the end of the probate process. I recorded some paperwork. I don't have the authority anymore. So you have to have that authority to be able to transfer it once your wife passed. Probably, I think what the attorney's going to say, but let's let him tell us.
Okay.
I think what they're going to say is we're going to have to foreclose at the HOA level, get it back, and then we can give it to you if you were, or give you another one. Because there's, from what I'm hearing, I'll let them answer, there's no way you're going to transfer it to yourself.
Okay.
You don't have the authority to sign.
Right. But you said the time of the probate, how do you know when that ends?
Well, in my case with my mother, I filed paperwork to end it because I knew I had wrapped up the affairs, but it just doesn't go on forever.
Right.
Depending on the state. What state do you live in?
North
Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. So give me your information. I'll put you in touch with Julie, who handles our North Carolina work, and we can just ask the question and get you. But I believe that's the answer you're going to get. But let's let them say that.
Just a quick announcement too. So the people in line with questions will take, and then we have to stop after that because we have to close the room out by 12. So any additional questions that come about, we can do those at the 2:30 back at the resort. So just the people in line with questions, and then no more.
Okay, I have a question regarding the foreclosures of the 100 building. Who's going to pay for that, first of all? Okay. I'm wondering how realistic it is to assume that it'll be completed by 2027 when we have 60 foreclosures that have taken more than a year. Okay, I don't see how you're going to do I thought the number was in the 400s. Maybe I'm wrong. Foreclosures in 3 years. Either that or the 60 are really screwed up.
Simple answer, use a different attorney. So the foreclosures Joe's going to be doing are going to be with a different attorney. That's one thing I can assure you.
You're going to use a different attorney. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Quick question and a request. When you were talking about an A unit and a B unit, and they were like 2 units, so they had a 2 fee, it went over my head. I didn't quite understand what you were saying. But if I, in the 100 building, were to go to some sort of unit that had an A and a B component, does that change the amount of my assessment?
No, it's actually advantageous to you. We talk about this. Everybody in the world sees our lockouts as 2 units, with the exception of us. Meaning, if you own a lockout unit, you pay the same maintenance fee everybody else does. But RCI, any interval, anywhere you use the trade, sees it as 2. And what a lot of owners will do is they'll stay in the A side, rent out the B side, stay in the A side, trade in the B side. So it actually gives you basically the use of 2 units for the fee of 1.
Okay, so it doesn't impact a 100?
No, ma'am. Your fee would, whatever your fee is today would be the same next year. If it goes up, everybody pays the same regardless. Yes, ma'am.
My request is, as you get with the 100 building people, and if they say yes, and they go for sale, it would be really cool if anybody was interested, as they say yes, in an interval ownership, meaning every so many weeks, you could get your winter, you could get your summer. If there were people that were interested in that, it would be the 100 building people.
Are you familiar with Picasso, anybody? At all? And what she's asking, I already talked to her, we're already looking at it at the various sites we do, but here's what she's asking. Joe, can you help me find 6 people that want to buy a unit? Because I don't want to buy the whole thing by myself. That's exactly what Picasso does. And then they arrange for, this year I get week 1, next year it's 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it's a brilliant model. It's just like it sounds, Picasso.com, you can see how it works. But we're already looking at, can we make that available when we sell the units? Yes, sir.
Going back to you, my wife has Alzheimer's. She's currently in a care facility. So even though she's on the deed, it's my name and her name.
Do you have a POA today, power of attorney?
I don't have power of attorney, but I am her conservator and her guardian.
Okay. So as a guardian, then you have the authority to sign for her.
That is correct, yes.
You, normally on a deed, in most states, I'd have to see the deed, so would the attorney. In 25 years, when you lose your wife, I hope it's longer, the title will pass automatically to the surviving spouse.
Okay.
Hopefully the deed was set up that way. While as guardian, I was guardian for my mother while she was alive too.
Sure.
You have the authority to sign for her. So.
Got you. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Just a reminder, because that was actually the last guy with questions, so.
Some big questions, and I've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, well, that's what, because we have to be out of here by 12, so that's why. So we have to cut this off at some point. So we're just going to let these next 2 go, and then see us afterwards.
Now, I want to ask this one publicly. So there's somebody here at Barrier that owns 67 of our units. How many of those are in the 100 building and is going to be in exchange for what we're proposing to do with Joe?
Well, it doesn't matter, because there's 500 people.
Is he going to get replaced with all the good summer weeks?
Everybody's going to get the same week that they have. I know who you're talking.
Yeah, I know everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's top pick, too.
I said this in the presentation, we have to work through the process that we're going to have to figure out how you guys are going to fight over the space you're going to, because everybody's going to want the 800 building. We got to work and create a process. I don't have it today.
You have to work a process.
Yes.
I think you're dealing with somebody who uses it for pure income and families who have been here for 36 years.
And that matters why? He pays fees like everybody else. And he's entitled, if he owns a 2-bedroom in week 31, to a 2-bedroom in week 31.
That is true on paper.
And that's what he'll get, no more, no less. And so will you, and so will that 100 owner.
I'll ask the rest of my questions later.
Sorry, I have just a few questions in regards to, you mentioned that if the vote goes through, that you will provide a line of credit for 1.3 million or 1.5?
Well, we will advance on what we expect the association to make at the end of the process.
Okay,
So
so it's
we'll
not a
just-
line of credit then? It is
No, we're just gonna give them
straight
some
cash,
money,
there
correct.
won't be any interest charges or anything?
No, there'll be interest. Money's not free. So I think I can do this quickly.
One more question, though. Just,
We
I
have
think
to
it's-
spend a whole lot of money to get to the end.
Okay.
Okay?
So-
I'm going to loan that money with interest. When we get to the end, we're going to sell them at this, have expenses of that. There's a net. I'm going to advance part of that net that the association would earn so that they can have it up front.
So who's paying for the renovations or upgrades?
The
Is that on-
process.
That's on the
I am.
resort?
The process.
So that's in addition to the amount of money that you're basically
I
paying in
put
advance?
1.5 million. Oh, absolutely. There's a whole lot of the 1.5 is not an expense. It's just an advance payment of the expected proceeds for the association. Remember my slide? We estimate the expenses to be $3 million.
So there are no expenses that are going to come out of this that the resort will have to pay for?
That's the plan.
Well, okay. The other thing is have we looked as a board at potentially selling this outright to a developer who will pay for it now, give us $3.5 million or $3 million right now. They take care of building it. They can do what they want with that little piece of land after we move everyone out. And then this way we have the money right now in hand as opposed to waiting for a timeline that we have no idea when it's going to be. And if we agree to a deal now, in today's terms, if it takes 4 years to do this, we don't get the extra cash out of it, I'm assuming.
We looked at that exact issue,
Okay.
and the deal was not favorable. That the developer would not have given us the kind of terms that we're going to get here. We did actually study that. We also studied tearing down the building and putting up a brand new building, and you cannot do that in Duck anymore. The zoning does not permit that.
Okay, so are we talking today dollars or are we talking about tomorrow dollars when this is done? Because we haven't heard a timeline as to when this will happen.
Well, I think you did hear a timeline.
We're doing a deal.
Yes.
Is it in today dollars or is there an opportunity for us in tomorrow dollars? I mean, if it takes until 2030 to finish building and selling, are we benefiting as a resort on the amount of money that will be sold at that time, or is it set in stone right now, a line?
I think, well, first of all, there is no option to sell it right now. We studied that, and
I understand
it doesn't
that.
work.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Everything gets inflated. So if costs go up, the selling price is going to go up. So, for instance, foreclosure costs have held fairly steady over the last several years. If development costs or any of the costs that Joe described on there go up, then two things will happen. Either the selling price goes up concomitantly, or money comes out the back end. The way this is going to be structured is we are going to be guaranteed proceeds from this. Okay? If there are fewer dollars at the back end, that's coming out of TOBE. Okay? We'll split this, but we are going to get this 1.5 million accessible funds guaranteed. What's not guaranteed is the back end distribution, and that's going to be impacted by two things: selling price of the units and all of the costs involved. The more we can control the costs and the higher selling price we get more money.
Who controls the costs, though? Is it on the board to continue monitoring and overseeing all of this?
That was on my slide.
Okay, so we are still involved, so we're basically
Absolutely.
partners in this situation.
Absolutely.
Okay, because that is I wasn't sure who's, but is that money coming out of us or is it coming out of the?
We are not putting up $1
Okay.
of association money for this transaction. Not $1.
Okay, so again, the only other thing I was thinking is this will give us an influx of money to finish with what we're talking about in terms of renovations on the property. But there still are, we're also in Building 5 this week, and those kitchens are terrible. There's a terrible smell. You've done such a nice job on the floors and everything else, but it's unfortunate. So, and I know that kitchens and bathrooms are not yet in that. So are we going to have to wait until 2030 when all the units are done? Like to me, there should be some kind of timeline in place that, we get out at some point.
Walter mentioned that the complete renovation of the property, complete, everything, every kitchen, every bath, everything, was a $12 to $13 million project. Okay. I've checked those numbers. I agree with those numbers. You don't see $12 or $13 million floating around anywhere in here. So I'll flip it back this way. If we were to turn over another building, if that demand was there, that would be more money coming in. Depending on the economics, we may have an extra 1.5 million at the end of this process in 3 or 4 years. We could also levy a special assessment. If there's a thirst for brand-new bathrooms and brand-new kitchens, I know there is, but do you want to pay for it? That's going to be, we're a business. You know, think of this as a business. We have so much money coming in, and we have a demand for money going out. And if we can't get the money in, we can't spend the money to get that. We understand certainly what was needed to be done, and we still do, but I don't know that there is a thirst out there to raise, pick a number, $6 million, you know, which would be a $2,000 special assessment on everybody, assuming they keep paying the bill. That would give us $6 million. That would be enough to do kitchens and baths. So we can survey, if there's a thirst for that, we'll put kitchens and baths on the agenda. But the money has to come from somewhere.
Okay, I agree, thank you for that. I just feel, though, that this could be a for never, ever situation going forward is that these units don't sell. I mean, I don't know what the economy looks like in the next 10 years. The location, yes, you know, it is on the island and so forth. It isn't ideal necessarily to the amenities. Like, I feel that there should be some kind of closure. At the end of the day, whether he's got units sold or not, we need to finish this off as opposed to, you know, pick a timeline of 3 years and then that's it, we're out. Because it's just, we're paying for it regardless.
What do you mean by out? Shut down the resort?
No, I'm not talking about shutting down the resort, but getting out our final check at the end of the, I understand you have to sell all the units, but there's no end to it. Like, how long is it going to take to sell those units? And there should be some kind of timeline. Like, we're leaving it up to a sales department to take care of that, but there should be some finite, in 2 to 3 years, this project is done and we're out.
And our plan is that it will be in that 2 to 3 year window.
Okay.
But plans is a plan. There's no possible way of locking that down and guaranteeing it. But that is the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, do you have a quick question?
Indeed.
Okay, it's got to be quick because we're at time right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing your volunteer work, and thank you too. This couldn't have been easy, and I appreciate it, and everyone else here does, it sounds like, behind me. Quick question, though, about pets. I am not anti-pet, but is there deep cleaning after someone comes in with a pet? And what are we doing with parakeets and iguanas?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, we do have pets. We have service dogs, or service animals. I've yet to see a parakeet or a iguana. Does it?
I have a picture of it. I have the iguana picture.
Maybe you have. I have yet to see. Well, I've seen plenty of rabbits, deers, raccoons. I've not seen a parakeet or an iguana thus so far. She's got pictures.
I have a picture of the iguana on the deck here.
Yeah. Is it? Might be ours. I don't know. We're wrapping up. We'll hold everybody for a few minutes. We'll do our raffle. We've got some door prizes. We've got a few free weeks. Oh. Yep.
We'll do a quick adjournment, and then we'll do the raffle. So just look, it's 11:59, so just look for a motion from the floor to adjourn the meeting. And a second. Multiple hands. Thank you. All right. Now we'll move on to the raffle.
All right. We've, yep, you're good. You wrap it up, yep. We've got a few, Denise, did you want to do it? Yep. We've got a few weeks given. We got a week from Joe here.